Good morning. Welcome on in on this Tuesday. DJ and PK, thanks for joining us as always as we inch closer to the start of college football for the Utes. It is in, 16 days? And they made some news yesterday. Kyle Whittingham telling us that, of course, Cam Rising is a starter. We know that. That's not any question whatsoever, right? The big news is that the first-year freshman, Isaac Wilson, Zach's little brother, is the number 2. Now, for Utah's sake, you hope that he just gets in some mop-up, which should be the first game, right? Open up against Southern Utah, you'd have to think that the Utes would be able to roll on that one, right? And that is his opportunity. I don't know that they would be interested in holding him out. You got the 4-game redshirt thing that you got going on. You can play in 4 games and redshirt, and obviously he hasn't used his redshirt season since he is just a freshman. But you don't know when he's going to play, and the fact that I wouldn't be so concerned about his redshirt, I would try to get him as much experience in his action as possible because you want to continue. The Utah's program isn't just a one-hit wonder by any stretch. They are very good and have been good for several years, as we know. So the opportunity then to get Wilson as much experience as possible sets him up for next year, right? Obviously it does. So I would think that he would play in the first game and then see what happens. My guess is in the non-conference with Baylor and Utah State that he'd get an opportunity to get into one of those 2 games, maybe even all 3. And then see what happens during the season. And you very well could use him, knock on wood, but injuries are a part of the game, as we know. You can't plan for them. You can try to prevent them, but I don't know how much that works. So, still, to me, big news because he's beaten out a couple of guys. Well, one has a fair amount of experience. That's Sam Heward. Coming over, played at Washington, then went down to Cal Poly. And then came over here to Utah, obviously. I think he's got a couple of years. Brandon Rose is the other guy. To me, it's not going to happen for the young fella. I mean, last year he couldn't beat out a walk-on. He didn't play in the bowl game when they were playing the walk-on and couldn't beat out Bryson Barnes, who's now up at Utah State. So he never even played. Been in the program 2 years, hasn't gotten on the field, and then your 2 years in the program, you get beat out by a freshman. Now, Isaac Wilson did come and play spring ball, and Kyle, we'll let you hear from Kyle here in a bit, and he talks about that, how that's important. Yeah, I suppose it is to be able to play immediately. But you just wonder, in the scope of things in life, would it be better to finish out your senior year with your buddies? Well, not in this world of football, and everybody wants to make the NFL and all that stuff. That's just not realistic, so it's no point in saying, well, they should enjoy the great times of their last year in high school. That sounds all good, but nobody does that anymore if you have that opportunity to go. And as Kyle says, about 50% of the high school grads are leaving early. I think it's a shame in the long run. Good for Isaac Wilson. Maybe it helps him win the job. Who's to say that he couldn't have won it either way? I think what it says to me also is they're not all that enthralled with the other 2 guys, and particularly Rose, if he wants to leave, they could probably use his scholarship, and my guess is that's what's going to happen. Heward, that's another story. Maybe he can stick around, see what he's got. He's a 5-star kid, I think, coming out of Washington. His dad, Damon, and then Uncle Brock, big University of Washington guys, got NFL experience to a degree. But it doesn't seem like it's working for him either. And we see that not from time to time. I think we see that more often than we like to think about with these high school quarterbacks. And they just don't materialize. It doesn't come to pass how good they're supposed to be, right? That's the way it goes. What are you going to do there? We'll see how that plays out as that quarterback race for now. And Kyle was pretty emphatic. In fact, why don't we hear from him right now up at Utah practice yesterday?
Kyle, how was scrimmage and what did you learn?
Scrimmage was really good. Best part about it, nobody went down with an injury, so that was a positive, a huge positive. But found out a lot about where a lot of these new guys are going to fit, where we are as a team, what our deficiencies are. I mean, everything you hope to find out in the scrimmage, we found out. So now it's just a matter of working on the things we need to work on and get the right people in the lineup. And we're almost to the 2-week mark, so it's getting close. It's counting down. We gotta start honing in on the travel squad and knowing who's in what role for this fall.
How's that QB2 battle shaking up?
Right now, Cam Rising number 1, Isaac Wilson number 2. That's where we're at. So
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Still working through that, but without much debate, Cam is 1 and Isaac is 2.
What did you see? Yeah.
Isaac is continue to get better each day. He's seeing the field better. He's making better decisions. He's got a live arm. Ball comes out of his hand like it's supposed to. Very mobile, and that's another facet that he is really in his strength of his, is being able to have escapability in the pocket and senses the rush very well and is able to get himself out of jams and still make a play on the move.
Who else is standing out on that offensive side of the ball?
Dorian Singer is doing a great job at wide receiver. We got 6 tight ends that are really in the mix right now. We got Brett Keithy, obviously, Bentley, Carson Ryan, Landon King, Caleb Lohner is doing a great job and really ahead of the curve right now of where we expected. And Miki Sugataranga might be our most consistent tight end. He's here every day and never misses and is a complete tight end. He can block, he can catch, he can do it all. So very pleased with his progress.
How is Lohner handling the transition in terms of the physicality?
As well as he possibly could have. He's not afraid at all. He's a big, tall guy, so he's got to work on keeping his pads down. That's always an issue with guys that have that kind of height. But he throws it in there. He is not afraid, and he's an exceptional athlete, great in pass routes, soft hands. He's got a chance. We'll just see how things progress. We still got, 13 practices before we line up and play.
What do you see out of the running back room after the first?
Running back room, pretty much what we saw at the beginning. Not a lot of separation. I would say if there has been separation, Mekhi Bernard, Mike Mitchell, and Jalen Glover are the first 3, not necessarily in that order, but all 3 of those guys are doing a nice job. Then you got Hunter Andrews, Charlie Vincent, and Duty, Dejon Stanley. They're in that next group of 3. It's those 6 guys that are getting the reps.
At this stage of camp, how much are you installing new stuff, and how much are you now looking towards opponents in week 1?
The install is starting to slow down. There's still some left. And then, of course, when we hone in on the opponents, then you have your own special set of plays for that particular team, some of which will be brand new. But for right now, I would say, if you put a percentage on it, 80% of the install is done, and it's just a few odds and ends right now. Is that an Aura ring?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one.
Oh, nice.
You like it?
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. My wife makes me wear it because she thinks it's a wedding ring.
How much did it help Isaac to be here for spring ball compared
Huge.
to Sam that wasn't?
He would not have an opportunity to start this fall, in my opinion, if he had not had the spring experience and the summer experience for that matter. And it's to the point now where roughly 50%, maybe a little more, of high school recruits are mid-year guys. And it's such an advantage academically as well as football-wise.
Is this a battle that's going to go into the season as well, this backup job?
The backup job right
or do
now.
you want it settled before the season?
Settled before the season, and right now Isaac has a good hold on it. And so we have a pecking order with 1 and 2, which is the most critical aspect, and still seeing how 3 and 4 shape up.
That's Kyle Whittingham. Let's go to the man of the hour, Isaac Wilson.
Kyle named you QB2 today, at least publicly to us. I mean, how does it feel coming in your first year to have that?
I mean, it's just a great opportunity for me to even be here. The offensive staff, everyone's been doing so much for me, and I'm just trying to give back by being on top of my plays, helping around. But, I mean, of course, it's a good feeling, but I got to keep working.
What pushes you?
All of it. My teammates, my family, just playing this game, I mean, all of it, really.
Isaac, what's been your mindset throughout camp?
I got to work. I just got to keep working. I'm just a freshman. I haven't earned anything yet. And the coaches always say, we need the team more than they need us. And I stand true to that. So I just want to come out here and ball, do my best, learn everything, and just have fun.
Kyle said there was no way you'd even be in contention if you weren't here in the spring. How much did your spring experience help you to where you are now?
Oh my goodness. You guys must know Coach Ludd's offense. This is a very complicated, but it's needed. This offense is everything you need. And just coming here early, learning everything, the X's and O's, has really pushed me forward, I think. And all of this extra, like our bread and butter plays aren't that bread and butter to most people, but just getting here early has really boosted me forward.
True freshmen aren't supposed to be able to come in here this fast and learn a complex offense like that. What strength do you have that enabled you to and kind of absorb all this so quickly?
I felt like I was put in a good position by my family and my coaches in high school. Having my older brother, Zach, of course. He's been helping me throughout this whole journey. And I mean, he's been going through his own journey too. So we're working through this together. I mean, my coach in high school, Coach Kerr, he got some of these concepts from Utah, so it's been a journey.
Where would you be without Cam? How has he accelerated your progression?
Oh my gosh, he's the man. He is the man. Anything I could ask for him. He helps me out on the field, off the field, give me little tips and tricks, things to remember. He's everything I'd ever need.
How much have you talked to your brother about this experience coming in early in the spring, and when you found out the news, did you talk to him at all?
Yeah, I talk to him almost every day. I send him plays and stuff. He helps me through it, and he was really happy for me when he heard about it. And he just had a game this yesterday, and he played pretty good. I mean, we've been talking through it.
Well, what has this experience been like for you, though? I mean, have you really kind of understood, like, how quickly this has all gone for you?
Oh, yeah, it's just flying by. It's pretty crazy that we're still in fall camp. But, yeah, just living in every moment, I'd say.
How do you like that number 12 national ranking coming in? Does that mean anything to you guys?
Now we got to win it. We got to win it. I mean, this team, I think we're going to be ready. I know we're going to be ready. Everyone's balling, offense, defense, and we're really working good as a group, so sure they can give us 12, but we know what we want.
You've played at Rice, I think, before in high school, but what do you think that experience is like once, maybe you're thrown into that and get the opportunity to play in the sellout crowd?
I mean, I've always been a Utah fan since I was little, and just being on that field, that experience is truly everything to me.
All right, now that's Isaac. How about we hear from Cam Rising, see what he has to say.
What steps did the offense take in week 3 from week 2?
We ended up week 2 with a great scrimmage. Guys were catching the ball downfield, they're completing the ball. O-line was blocking their rear ends off, so it was very good, a high note. And now we're just kind of trying to refine the details, make sure we can go back to the first few installs that we put in, and just make sure we're hitting everything on the head.
Kyle said that Isaac has earned that number 2 spot for right now. What have you seen from Isaac?
He's been making some big plays. He can spin the ball with the best of them and make some funky throws and complete it. Got a lot of respect for him, and he's a student of the game, always trying to learn. So I think he's definitely shown that, and just got to keep it rolling.
He's got the poise beyond being a freshman, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's a great player.
Coach Witt said the scrimmage went really well. You learned a lot from the scrimmage. How did you feel about it?
I felt great. I think O-Block did a great job up front. Anytime they're doing their job, it's going to make my job easier, and the receivers are going to be getting open more. And yeah, it was a great day for us.
Each week, do you feel like the chemistry with these new receivers is building and building?
Oh, absolutely. You get more reps, and just like anything, it's just going to get easier and easier as you know how they're going to get out of their breaks and all that type of stuff.
What's your relationship been like with Isaac, and what does his learning process look like throughout the spring and even in this fall?
During the spring, you could tell he was a freshman, but now he's definitely understands it. He went through those freshman mistakes and stuff, and is now just cleaning it up and doing a great job.
What's allowed him to have such a long or easy learning curve as a freshman?
I think his ability to learn and not being afraid to fail. A lot of times you got to go through those mistakes, because once you make them, they kind of get engraved in your head, and you just don't want to make them again. So that's where I think the biggest growth came from.
You're as qualified as anyone to give an assessment on the defense, mainly the secondary.
Oh, yeah.
That safety unit trying to replace Sione Vaki, Cole Bishop. How's that going?
I think they're doing a great job. Nate Ritchie has been playing his ass off. My bad. And Teo is a phenomenal safety as well. Rabbits have even been making some plays, and Kai as well. So we got some depth right there, and there's some big time players that know how to read quarterbacks' eyes and make it challenging for us to throw go balls and stuff, because they can track back so well and all that. So I think we did a good job replacing him. I mean, I know it's hard to place guys that are in the NFL now, but I think we did a good job.
That's Cam Rising. Next, we're going to do Jalen Glover as we bring you all the sound that was available. The Utah Utes do offensive players on Monday and defensive players on Tuesdays throughout camp, and they pretty much do that during the regular season for that matter too. So here's Jalen Glover.
Man, fall camp been good. Unfortunately, I strained my hamstring the first day of camp, so I'm probably like 5-6 practices in, but didn't lose a step. I actually feel a whole lot better. Coach Wick got me down to 200, and I feel faster than ever. So I'm feeling good right now. Guys in the room keeping us competing, so it's been fun.
How do you feel about this running back room? 2 or 3 guys that could carry the load if necessary.
Man, that's like every year. Man. It's Utah always going to have a loaded room of backs, and that's why you come here. And that's why I enjoy playing here, just because I know I got to come every day with my head on the swivel ready to go, because, it's a small plate. Everybody's trying to eat, so I'm trying to do what I got to do so I can eat.
From last season to now, where do you feel you've improved the most?
Like I said at the golf tournament, my explosiveness and coming out of that, coming out of the line of scrimmage, man, I feel really good. I'm really confident in this year, and I'm just going to let the work show.
How are you and Mekhi kind of pushing each other? You guys both been in the program for a little bit. You still learning from each other?
Man, I learn from Mekhi every day, and now that I got knowledge of the game, it's nice. He was my big brother coming in. Now he's asking me questions, so it's crazy how the time switched. But yeah, man, one hell of a dude. I'm excited to be sharing the backfield with him this year. So yeah, man, that's my guy, man. That's my guy.
What are you seeing from Mike Mitchell that hasn't you encouraged?
Man, Mike, how Mekhi treated me, that's how I treat Mike. Mike is probably going to be one of them guys coming out of here, man. He's talented. He's physical. He's a big dude, and he can break some tackles. But as he continues to grow, he's only going to get better. And yeah, he's definitely going to help us this year.
Coach said that Isaac Wilson right now, number 2. What have you seen from him this
Isaac is a special talent. It kind of run in the family, but he definitely he's poised. He looks like he's ready to go, and I'm excited to see him go, man.
What have you seen from Hunter Andrews as he comes over to the RB room?
Hey, he just brings another element to our room. Just from him being a big guy, help us on short yardage. But for a big dude, he has great feet. I try to stay on him to make sure he understands his reads. Coming from the linebacker room to the running back room is a little different. But I know he had experience in high school, and it doesn't look like it's an uncomfortable position for him. He looks good.
Okay, coming up next, Vin Scully. Have you heard of him? Sure you have. Well, a good friend of mine has written a book on Vin Scully, and we will get to that next. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined now by Tom Hoffarth, longtime media critic for multiple newspapers down in Southern California, and either we're going to talk about his book, Perfect Eloquence and Appreciation of Vin Scully, or we're going to talk about some of the Daily Breeze's best softball teams ever, and I really don't know.
Tom was the manager. We had to be nice to him because he determined your playing time.
Batting order?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
PK, you're hitting 8th. You've been popping off.
I think he slotted me 6th, if I remember. Which was
hey,
fine.
Listen, I played catcher and batted 9th just to make everybody happy.
Oh, and we had this thing. You could run. You couldn't steal, but you could run. And Tom batted right behind me. So if he took off his hat and wiped his forearm across his forehead, that was a hit and run. Yeah.
I knew we weren't going to talk about the book. I knew this book had no chance of getting discussed.
No, tell them about the time the comebacker came to the mound and we had a guy picked off at third base. And I threw it to you. I spiked the ball. Remember that?
His eyes got the size of a freaking ocean. And we're at Wilson Park, and I started backing up into the parking lot because he got, like, possessed. He was, like, 3 feet away from me, and he wound up. I was thinking, this is a Nolan Ryan fastball. I don't have a cup on. And I backed away. What is he doing?
I thought we had this guy in a rundown. This guy ran off third base right on the comebacker, and I ran it back to third, and then I threw the ball into, like, Carson Refinery. And PK just looked at me like, what are you doing? I go, you get out here and pitch.
Oh, man, my youth. They were great times.
Good times. Let's start.
50 years ago?
Yeah, it seems like it.
We're putting people to sleep now.
All right, let's start with Vin, and let's go 50 years ago, because I'm not old enough to go back to the Brooklyn Dodgers. That would be my dad's team, even though he lived on the wrong side of the country for that. But in San Diego, when I'm a kid, there's very little sports on TV. You get the network stuff on the weekend and the weeknights, and I ended up going to sleep, listening to the radio, and listening to games when I'm a little kid. I'm in elementary school. I love sports on the radio. And the first time I hear Vin, I have I don't know where my career is going at this point, right? I'm a little kid. But the first time I hear Vin, I know this guy's really good. And then subsequently, when I get my first radio job in Santa Barbara, my job is to play commercials during Dodger radio games. That was one of 10 things I had to do. And so I'm hearing him every day. Now I know I want it to be my career, and I'm listening to him. I can hear the storytelling, the building blocks, inning on top of inning. I'm like, it's like a painting. It's artistry. I'm a Padre fan. I hate the Dodgers, but I love Vin Scully. But the book, and maybe the book does get into some of the, why he's so good. But what the book really gets into is that he seems like he was as good a person as he was a broadcaster. And I know he was an awesome broadcaster.
Everybody knows he was an awesome broadcaster and storyteller and person who connected all these generations of people. And that was really the point I wanted to make, was for those who had any interaction with Vin Scully on the radio or off the radio as a person, it was such a treat and a blessing, and I wanted to capture all this. And so when I started writing this book, I started putting my own notes together, and then I would reach out to other people and go, hey, did you have this experience? And they go, oh my gosh, not only that, but he wrote my mom a letter once when she was in the hospital, and he called my dad once when I asked him for this, and it's like, how does this guy have the time to do it? But that was kind of what my takeaway is, because here in Los Angeles, there was no big public celebration for him when he passed away in 2022. So I wanted to see what people remembered about him and what resonated with you. So if you could do a eulogy for him, what would it be? And I got like 67 eulogies, including my own stuff. So I think we have that common feeling, whether you lived in LA or nationally and heard him do broadcasting on the NFL or golf or baseball, but he was just the voice of sports. And it was just a treat to know that he, as big a guy as he was, as great a broadcaster that he was even a better man. And that's what I want people to know, and just collecting all these things. And I hope that's the takeaway for people.
Tell us the name of the book and where they can get it.
Perfect Eloquence, an appreciation of Vin Scully. And it's purposely called Appreciation. It's not a tribute. It's not a biography. It's really people talking about where they appreciate things that he meant to them. And it's on Amazon. It's everywhere. It's in any bookstore you order, any local bookstore, they can order it for you. So it's really easy to get. It's University of Nebraska Press. And it's been out since May, and it's really doing well. And the response from people has been so fantastic, including his family and people in the Dodger organization. So it's just really humbling to kind of get this out there in circulation.
I read the book while I was on vacation in your state, down in San Diego County. I spent some time.
The state of confusion?
That is your state. I worked with Tom side by side for many years, so I've got stories on that. But
you've escaped to pleasure paradise.
That's for sure. So with that in mind, you talk about the time he had. It was incredible because people would come through the booth, and sure, you'd get big names. You talk about there was a vignette of Ray Charles, and he was a baseball fan, and he wanted to meet Vin Scully. Well, at that era, Vin Scully's probably going to want to meet Ray Charles because Ray Charles was a big-time celebrity unto himself. But the thing that impressed me, there was a lot of just basically average people, behind-the-scenes people that we wouldn't know that you included, and they included a touching story that Vin had for them. And I think that's what made him stand out. Speak to that.
Yeah, because it was interesting. He could be a great broadcaster in any market. But the fact that he was in Hollywood in Los Angeles, moved with the team in 1958, and basically became this transplant, he became really the voice, the soundtrack of Southern California. And he could have got caught up in the fame and celebrity and all that. And he did TV shows. He did some game shows. He got caught up in all that stuff. one of the greatest performances I think he did was in Love of the Game with Kevin Costner, when he basically ad-libbed the whole scene where Costner, as a Detroit Tiger pitcher, Billy Chappell, is trying to throw a perfect game at Yankee Stadium. But that was just not his. That wasn't his goal, is to be part of that Hollywood stuff. So yeah, he could appreciate the big names who wanted to meet him, and during his last season in 2016, the booth was just filled with people coming in and out, wanting to give him a hug, say goodbye, thank him. But he was so appreciative of everybody, just going from the person who was working the door, James, who was a security guard at the stadium, the press box, to the cook, to the waiters, to everybody else. And it wasn't phony. It was just like he just loved people, and he loved connecting with people. And he knew that his greatest gift was time that he could give to people. And I think that was just sort of a lesson I took away from him. And Jim Hill, one of the local broadcasters here, talked to me about what Vin taught him. And was basically when someone comes up to ask you for an autograph, it takes you just as long to sign the autograph and say hi and thanks, how's your day, than it does to make up some excuse why you can't do it. So these little kind of life lessons that I hear John Wooden, and I hear Vin Scully, and I hear these different things when things happen in your life, and you go, well, what should I do? What would Vin Scully do? And it's like, well, you just be a good person. And these kind of times that we live in now, where it kind of gets divisive and negative feelings go, I don't want to live that way. I want to hold up somebody to show my kids, this is the way a gentleman acts. This is the language they use. This is the preparation they go into their work. This is the pride they have and the joy that they bring to other people. So live that way. I mean, why waste your time doing other stuff when you can have an example like this? And it's just something I think about every day, and I'm so glad I was able to put this all together and share it with people.
Tom Hoffarth joined us. He's got a new book on Vin Scully. One of the things about baseball is people spend so much time together, and the bonds get so deep. And Don Drysdale's a legendary pitcher, and then a very good broadcaster. Did some network stuff as well. Was having a lot of success, and he passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. And you got a story that I had never heard about how the Scullys and Don's widow and kids bonded after that. Can you tell that?
Sure. Don Drysdale was married to Ann Myers, who was a huge basketball player at UCLA, a Hall of Fame player, broadcaster. They got married, had 3 kids. And when Don passed away, the Dodgers were trying to find her to let her know about what had happened, because they were on the road in Montreal. And I remember watching that broadcast, and we sort of knew. We were working at the newspaper that day, and we knew what had happened, but they didn't say anything on the broadcast. They were waiting till they contacted her. And ever since then, they've treated her like part of the family. She would bring her sons out to the games, and Tommy Lasorda would treat him like an uncle. And she was, even last weekend, they did this great ceremony to put Walter O'Malley in the Dodgers Ring of Honor. And Ann Myers Drysdale was wearing Don's 53 uniform, and she was up there with part of the unveiling, along with Erin Scully, who's Vin's daughter. And they just made them part of the family. Even if they're not here, they're still here in spirit. And I think that's kind of the way the Dodgers' new ownership has treated the history of the team. They've really embraced it. And people like Vin Scully, you still hear his voice when you go to the stadium. He's like Walt Disney at Disneyland, welcoming you to the park and telling you, it's like you just and for this ceremony last Saturday for Walter O'Malley, it was narrated by Vin Scully, who had done this storytelling about the life of Walter O'Malley years ago, and it just felt like he was just there. So, yeah, Ann Myers Drysdale is a lovely woman, and it's so nice to talk to her about her memories of the team and growing up. Listening to Vin and being a Dodger fan, and then just being part of the family now along with her kids. So there's all these family ties that happen, and thankfully she was available to do an essay for the book, and a couple others as well who had those kind of really special feelings.
Speaking of family, he had that, Tom, and it is Forget About Me, I Love You.
I'm glad you picked that up on that.
That's an acronym for family.
Yes, and that was used at his funeral as the priest who did the funeral for him reminded everybody of that. And So that's really what he was. And in some ways, this book was really launched because I did an obituary appreciation piece for him for the local Catholic news magazine here in Los Angeles. And that kind of reminded me about how his family was so important to him and all the tragedy he had been through with his previous losing a son and a wife. And his father was pretty much gone before he was old enough to know who he was. So he's lived with death and sorrow and how to cope with these things. And being an Irish Catholic, he says, death is just part of what life is all about. So it's not something to fear. It's something to sort of embrace. It sort of gives life meaning. And again, it's just a reminder to everyone else, like when you feel like, you're having a tough time, what do you fall back on your faith or your family? And really that's what is a message that I think never gets old, and it's always worth repeating and reminding people about.
Yeah, and he had strong faith in this in his life. I'm not sure how many people realize that, but in reading the book, that was illustrated multiple times.
Yeah, it ties everything together, and it's probably the reason why he was such a great broadcaster and a great storyteller. And one of the things that I got to experience with him is at the ballpark on a Sunday morning, they would hold a Catholic Mass down in the locker room area, and he would get up and do the Bible readings. He would read the Old Testament, New Testament. So to hear him do this, the other sports writer I would be with would nudge me, go, I think this is how God wanted to hear it. It's just the voice of Vin. And really what the Bible is storytelling. So it's just Vin in his natural habitat. Just, it was just such a blessing to hear that and to know that was genuine with him. Because you can be a part of a religion but not really be connected to it. But Vin was really all in and had used it as his heritage as well as his family faith, and it was just so comforting to know that someone like him was not afraid to express that, but also he was a pretty private man too. So when people wrote his obituary, a lot of them didn't have that sort of touchstone as to what he was all about. What made him great in so many ways was, I think, that was at the core of his existence.
Well, Tom, we appreciate your time. Good luck with the book, and I'm glad you wrote it. Vin Scully's the kind of guy who deserves a book like this, and there's so many things that you know about someone when they're on the air, but you can still only know 1 or 2% of what they're doing when they're on the air because so much of the life is off the air.
Yeah, and it's such a thing to see in Los Angeles, all these tributes that are still to him, whether it's murals or people have tattoos or they write songs or, his presence is still felt. And I hope this sort of adds to all that and gives people who might not have known him personally, but a feeling like they really do after reading this.
It's a long story, but once upon a time I had to go to a high school football game and interview the PA announcer because the guy doing the public address was Larry King because his stepson had gotten remarried, and his stepson was the high school quarterback at Timpview High at the time.
Oh, my God.
Did you guys ever get Vin Scully out to do the PA for one of the Daily Breeze softball games? That would have been awesome. That would have been spectacular. Go to your local park, and there's Vin's voice through the trees over the backstop.
Now batting. Yeah, batting
right?
in the 11th hole. The far left fielder. And he's got a great future someday.
We did have, Jim Fox, the Kings analyst?
Yes.
They were in the league. The Kings had a team
and
in the league.
I feel so bad about that. Once when I was pitching, Fox had a comebacker to me, and I knew he just had knee surgery. So I let him run all the way to first base before I threw him out.
Oh, man.
I just held the ball and oh, come on, Foxy, keep going.
Vin would not have approved.
No.
Would not have approved.
Terrible. That was terrible. And now I see on Twitter he's had his 17th knee surgery done again. Oh, fuck. And I'm sure I contributed to it, but yeah, it was a fun softball league, and I wish we could do that again, but we're just too old. We have memories of ourselves being great, and then we have the reality that we're not anymore.
No. Tom Hoffarth is the author. The book is Perfect Eloquence, an appreciation of Vin Scully, available at Amazon or wherever else you get books, your local bookstore and all that. Tom, thanks for a few minutes. We appreciate it.
Thank you for helping me get the word out. I appreciate that.
How about that? A guy I've known for many, many years, Tom Hoffarth, writing a book about Vin Scully. A lot of Dodger fans live here, and even if you're not a Dodger fan, you got to be a Vin Scully fan, don't you? He broadcast, 60-some years for the Dodgers. And then, of course, he did many things on the national level. Okay, coming up next, we got to talk about BYU football. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Good morning. Welcome on in on this Tuesday. DJ and PK, we are proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. I've had an opportunity to play that course. PGA Tour is coming in 2 months. 2 months from this very week. This time in 2 months, we will have PGA golf, a real tournament, not an exhibition. No, a real golf tournament with the real pros will be down in the St. George area at Black Desert. All right, BYU football. They do not have a starting quarterback just yet. I think they kind of have an idea, but they want some more evidence. And I think if Bohannon has a good week, he very well could be your starter coming up in 3 weeks. Let's hear from Coach Kalani Sitake.
Been doing really good. I mean, I'm happy with where the team is at right now. We had really good scrimmage on Saturday, 102 live plays that were graded, and every one of those refs were live. Got some good work in special teams as well. So with today's practice, I'm feeling really good about where we're at. We're just kind of see how it continues in terms of, I know you guys asked about the quarterback competition. It's starting to form, but we'll when we get there and ready to announce something, then we'll do that. But right now, I'm really happy with the way the two guys are competing, and looking forward to see them progress. I think all the quarterbacks have gotten better, and I mean it's back and forth between the offense and defense, but some really good battles, some really good plays, and some good talent on the field. So.
What were your main takeaways from the scrimmage?
We have some really good players. I feel good about where our team is at. It's a good depth and some good playmakers. So I feel like the guys that are returning have improved and gotten better, and part of that is being healthy. So. That's part of it. The new guys coming in, I think, fit perfectly with what we're trying to get done. And in terms of whether they're new on the offense or defense or special teams, they've done a great job.
Are you starting to see separation between the two quarterbacks? Is someone separating themselves?
I see some great competition. Right now, we're not ready to make any announcement, but I think we have some really good quarterbacks, and those two have definitely improved since practice 1 to now. So I think all the guys have gotten better, but. In terms of the quarterback position, it's hard to make a decision right now.
Do you think this is the last week of the quarterback competition? Do you want to name one after the end of this week? Or?
I don't know. I mean, there's less Olympics to watch, so maybe we'll give you guys something to think about. I think those have to happen naturally. It's not going to be anything that we can force feed or create a deadline on. So we've been through quarterback competitions before. I think when it's right, then we'll be able to announce it. But right now, it's not the time.
Did anything stand
before the game before game week?
I think so, yeah. We'd like to do that. We could do the old school coach episode where we don't say anything, and you guys don't know anything. Just throw out a punter out there just in case. But I don't know. I think we'll do what's right. I think the team has a good feeling on the guys that are battling for it. But what I've been impressed with is that they're all getting better.
Did you come out of the scrimmage healthy?
Yeah, for the most part, guys are banged up. There'll be some guys but nobody gone for the year. So there'll be guys that we'll miss some time, but it's okay. That's part of going live.
Did anything surprise you about the scrimmage? Maybe a group or a player, anybody that kind of stood out in a way that maybe you weren't expecting?
I think a lot of it was. It's hard to say that even one side won. It was a evenly matched between the offense and defense. We had some success on offense and some success on defense, but I think a lot of the guys did exactly what we thought they would. It's hard to kind of pinpoint. Probably have to ask those guys how they thought they did in the scrimmage, but I was really pleased with it. I know we were a really physical team. We need to be. We were really tough physically. We just need to be mentally tough. But it was good to get out there and make some mistakes now. We had some penalties and nothing out of the ordinary, but very fixable issues that we can handle. And so I think once we get that done, but it's good to have a full ref crew that's out there throwing flags, making sure that we're on top of it with the clock. And like I said, 102 plays of live work is really good.
Along with quarterback, what other positions are still battling before crystallizing that depth chart?
What other positions? Every one of them. So it's like, I think you guys kind of know the names that are competing for it. I'm not really worried about who the 11 starters that will be in play one is going to be. I'd like to see how many guys can we get that we trust to be on the field on defense, and it should be more than 11. Same thing on offense. So the goal is to get as many starters as we can that are available that will help us win, and the best 11 will be on the first snap. That it? All right, guys.
How many with the offensive line, do you feel like you've established that starting five? Do you feel like you got a clear idea of where that's at right now?
I don't know if you guys seen some of the practices. I think we've kind of rotated between 6 to 7 guys, and so I don't know if we're ready to make where they've rotated. I think you can kind of guess on who's competing for spots, but I think there's some spots that are kind of doing really well right now, and Connor Pay's one at center. We'll see how the other guys do. The good thing is that guys like Caleb and Braden and Waylon can play, well, especially Caleb and Braden can play other positions, and they've done that before. So, but I know that Coach Woods is about getting a rhythm and getting things going with the same 5 guys, and we'll get there soon. Probably earlier than the quarterback.
How much of an influence does Coach Woods have on this offense, this 2024?
Oh yeah, big time. Big time. We put him in the position to. Yeah, I think that's the one coach that coaches the most on the field. So we need him to be good, and TJ knows how to get him rolling. I think these guys, technique-wise and fundamentally, I've been seeing huge improvement there. They're still tough kids, and TJ knows how to get the most out of them, and I'm really, really happy with the way the O-line is working right now.
Will was pretty efficient today kicking the ball.
Yeah, actually.
Is that going to curtail you from going to fourth down
well,
too much?
I think he missed his first one in camp, and so, it's kind of far because if you look at the uprights are a little bit further behind than the actual line, so it's a little further than we thought, but it's okay. I'd rather get that one miss out of the way now. But it's also a different surface than what he's been kicking on the grass, and so, but he's been really good, and there's other parts of the kick. It's a snap, the hold, and the protection. So that stuff's going really nicely. We're seeing a little bit of leakage in the protection, but we'll get that all shored up. And Will's done a great job for us, yeah.
Still going to go for fourth down as much with that kind of a weapon?
I don't know. You never know. So we don't gamble. We're not encouraged to gamble, but I can do it on the field, so here we go. Everybody be a coach, and you can enjoy what I do.
What have been your impressions of this freshman class and some of the new faces that are competing in already?
Yeah, super talented. Obviously, these guys can make plays, and I think the young freshmen that come in are more developed. The newcomers that we signed, more developed than what we've had in the past, and that's a good thing, right? But I think they're also probably more ready to get on the field as early as even game one. So, really talented group, and the coaches did a great job at recruiting them, and they've done a great job at improving and working from even in camp, getting better from day one to now.
What was your evaluation of Hinckley after being out for a year?
Yeah, Hinckley looks great. He looks really good. It's just getting him to the game, but also making it so we can work with him. It's he and LJ getting enough reps where we can feel like, okay, there's enough game-ready reps where they're back to their normal selves. And Hinckley's getting there, LJ's getting there, and I think Miles did some really good things. We've seen Pokai and seeing the emergence of Sione Moa and Pokai starting to make some plays, and it's been really good for those guys.
To follow up on that, did LJ take any snaps in the scrimmage?
No, he did not, and neither did Hinckley. So all the other guys got reps. I think we're still waiting on Enoch, Nawahine to get fully healthy, and then those guys will get the reps. Possibly this Saturday. We'd have to see some live work from those guys, and we're getting there.
Still expecting LJ for coming out of camp for week one then?
Yep, still expecting him for week one. Still expecting him to do some live work before we get there.
That's Kalani Sitake. Right now, we're going to go to the offensive coordinator, a man who's going to have a significant say in what happens with the quarterback, Aaron Roderick.
How do you feel about the scrimmage on Saturday?
Good. We did a lot of good things. We're not ready to play a game yet, but I think we're on track. We have a good team and did a lot of good things Saturday.
How close do you feel like you are to naming a quarterback?
We're getting there, but I'm not in a hurry. We're going to just keep playing for a little bit. I would prefer that, my experience with these things is usually the decision gets made on the field and it gets to a point where everybody on the team knows, and then when we say who the starter is, everybody's like, yeah, duh. That's what we're looking for. we're not quite there. It's a good battle, but we'll keep going for a while. There's no rush.
Do you have an actual deadline in your head that you have to make a decision if it doesn't become apparent?
No. When Zach and Jeremy were here, we made the decision like 3 days before the first game, and then both those guys ended up being pretty good. So I would like it to be sooner than that, but we're not. There's no deadline.
In camp where you're establishing the depth chart, how do you balance development of a young guy like Noah Lugo?
It's hard because it is clearly a two-man race. So those two guys are getting the bulk of the reps, and so Noah Lugo's development is going to come playing scout team and next spring. That's his best chance, because that's part of the deal. When you are having the two-man battle, you have to invest most of the reps in those two guys.
Coming out of a scrimmage, how do you feel about your offensive line?
Improved. They're getting better. We still need to go do it in a real game, but I believe in those guys, and I believe in what we're doing, and they're really well coached.
What we've seen, it looks like there's a 6-man rotation for those 5 spots. Do you feel like it's pretty set with who you're going to go with?
No, there's still some battles going on there, yeah. And I would say it's probably a little more than 6, but there's our second team O-line's improved a lot too. There's some good players in that group, and it's just about, we had good players last year too. It's just about playing as a unit. We gotta execute as a unit, and I'm seeing improvement there. But I don't want to make any bold statements until we go do it in a real game.
Obviously, the quarterbacks weren't fully live, still wearing the green shirts and everything in the scrimmage, but Kalani was saying that most of the other position groups did have at least live reps and whatnot. What did you think of kind of the physicality of the offense when you got to see them sort of go all the way through contact and that sort of thing?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because that's been the number one priority since the end of last season. Is we need to be more physical. We need to get back to playing the way we played the 3 years prior, where we were a physical team that could run the ball. And so we are, I believe that we're heading in the right direction. And it's an everyday thing. It's an 11-man deal. Everybody on our offense has to be physical. Everybody has a role in the run game. And when we're running the football, that's what opens up our play-action pass and our ability to stretch the field. And so I'm seeing a lot of good things, but again, I'm just going to keep saying it until we go do it in a real game. I'm challenging our players to stay focused on just the next play, each practice one at a time.
With how many receivers you have, do you know kind of where JoJo Phillips stacks up right now, and what do you think his role will be?
JoJo's going to play a lot. He's a good player. Yep.
Kalani expressed confidence he thinks LJ Moore will be ready by week 1. You expressed the same?
Yeah, he's cleared. He's practicing. We're just not letting him get tackled or get hit very much. And same with Folau. We didn't let Folau get tackled Saturday. He took a few live reps in a practice last week, and then in the scrimmage didn't let those two guys. It's not. Those guys don't have. There's no need to get them tackled right now.
With the quarterback situation, is there any scenario where week 1 you play multiple guys and try to see both of them, or do you have a philosophy on that?
I don't want to do that, but I would never say never. I mean, that's not how I want it to go now.
Cody Hager was a big recruit for you. What have you seen from him this fall?
He's really good. He's a smart guy. Unbelievable how fast he's picked up our offense. I mean, he knows the offense like a veteran player already. He can run, and he's doing a good job. He's doing a really good job. He's got a bright future.
Is there room for him in the rotation wide receiver?
There's room for as many good players as can help us win. I mean, I'm serious. We've had years where we rotate 8 guys. We've had years where we rotate 4. It just depends who steps up and who can help us. So, and that goes for tight end, that goes for running back and receiver. We'll play as many guys. If guys prove that they can do something well to help us win games, we'll put them in the game and do what they do well.
There you go. That's BYU. We'll have Riley Jensen joining us at 8 o'clock to talk quarterbacks. Former quarterback himself. He knows a lot about that position. He'll join us at 8 o'clock. Stay with us. Coming up next, what is trending? Get you caught up in the world of sports right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
Noah Lyles can't say nothing after what just happened to him. You know what I'm saying? Then you want to come out and pretend like he's sick. I feel like that's like horseradish. So for him to like do that and say that we're not world champions of like our sport, and like, come on, bro. Like, just speak on what you know about. You know what I'm saying? And that's track.
Would you like to race him when he gets home?
I would beat Noah Lyles.
You think so?
I would beat Noah Lyles.
Like by a lot?
No, I wouldn't beat him by a lot, but I would beat Noah Lyles.
I'd like to see that happen.
And guess what? When I beat him, I'm going to put on a COVID mask.
Oh, God.
And let him know I mean business.
Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know what you're saying. You think you can beat Noah Lyles. You taking shots at Noah Lyles. Go, what is a world champion? I don't know. This controversy, it's too much for me to take, man. Come on, brothers. We got to get along. Can he beat him? Can Tyreek Hill beat him? That would be interesting.
I want to see that race.
Because Hill is fast, obviously.
He's won 60-meter races against legitimate pro track athletes in the past.
60, but we got to go 100.
I know, you got to go to 100, yes. I want to see that race happen.
We'll make it happen.
Let's see if we can do. Let's see what we can do.
Put up some sponsors. Siegfried and Jensen on the line.
Make some phone calls.
They're big sponsors of sports. They love sports. Speaking of the Jets, get it? Jet, run really fast. The Jets receive a trade request from pass rusher Hassan Reddick yesterday, but I think they said, too bad. Quote, GM Joe Douglas, we have informed Hassan that we will not trade him, that he's expected to be here with his teammates, and that he will continue to be fined per the CBA if he does not report. Since the trade discussions back in March, we have been clear, direct, and consistent with our position. Our focus will remain on the guys we have here as we prepare for the regular season. Of course, Reddick wants more money and a new contract. That's the way that stuff usually does work. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's the running back for the Lions. He's got an injured hammy. We'll have to see about his status. He had a fine season last year as the Lions had a breakout campaign. He had 1,261 total yards and got into pay dirt 11 times. Hopefully that hammy for him heals. Still got time. Got just under a month before the first game. Chiefs wide receiver Marquise Brown, we call him Hollywood. He will not require surgery to repair dislocations of the sternoclavicular shoulder joint in their preseason opener against the Jaguars. He was taken to the hospital. The joint is close to major nerves and blood vessels. That's scary.
Yeah, apparently the story was that the training staff with the Chiefs recognized it very early on and realized that this was more serious than they could obviously handle there at the facility.
Got to get him out of there, man. Air evac. Get him on a helicopter. Take him immediately up to the U of U. Every time I see that helicopter flying up in that direction over my house, I'm thinking, uh-oh. What's going on there?
We all do it.
Have you ever been in a helicopter?
I've never been in a helicopter.
I've been in a helicopter multiple times.
I've always wanted to. I think it'd be cool.
My cousin taught helicopter flying down at UVU. And then, when I first moved over to California, for about 3 years, I didn't do sports. And one of the assignments I had doing news was when the military was escorting the tankers through the Kuwaiti out there. It was like in the early 1980s, I guess, maybe. And so they had me get out to Long Beach Naval Station, which doesn't even exist anymore, which blows my mind away because it was a thriving naval station when I was there, over on Terminal Island. We had to get out there at like 4 a.m. They took us on a Navy helicopter and flew us out a couple hours into the sea. And then we landed on this aircraft carrier thing, and we then interviewed the guys on the way into port. It was way cool. And they told us if the thing crashes, because it was open, man, it wasn't enclosed. If it crashes into the water, you'll turn upside down, and you think you're swimming up, but you're actually swimming down. So go the other way. Got it. Fortunately, we did not crash.
Down is up is down.
All was well, and here I am today. Rock me like a hurricane. Let's move on to the NFL minor leagues known as college football.
Hashtag college football.
Isaac has continued to get better each day. He's seeing the field better. He's making better decisions. He's got a live arm. Ball comes out of his hand like it's supposed to. Very mobile, and that's another facet that is really a strength of his, is being able to have escapability in the pocket and senses the rush very well and is able to get himself out of jams and still make a play on the move.
Isaac Wilson, the kid, the fresh man. Number 2, Brandon Rose. It ain't happening for you here, son.
We barely knew ye.
Yeah, I would imagine he would take off. He's been there for 2 years. Couldn't get in last year. And was beaten out by a freshman. Sammy, the Bammy, Heward, beaten out by a freshman. Wasn't Sammy the Bammy a 5-star? Was it just the last name?
He was a 5-star. Lit up the Elite 11, but you have done the research on this, PK. So many of those Elite 11 guys will transfer once, maybe twice in their career, and
it's like over 50%.
And he's transferred twice technically, because he went to Cal Poly and then to Utah.
They transfer at least once, and then like 40% of those who transfer again. I did that research a few years back. That Elite 11. I don't know what it is with quarterbacks, but I'm wondering how much high school and the program makes everybody look good. Although Corner Canyon obviously makes their quarterbacks look good. Wilson, number 2. Oh, my gosh. We'll get to that later this morning. We got Riley Jensen coming in about 45 minutes, and we'll talk about that. AP preseason poll. The Utes 12th. They were, 13th in the other one? 12th in this? I thought they would have been higher. All the love that they're receiving, because they never get their due. And that coach out there, man, he just does not get the credit for the great job that he's done. Says everybody not from here. It just seemed like they were getting so much positive pub in the offseason that I thought it would be higher. And to the shock of no one, it is those outsiders in order: Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. Oh, my gosh. October 21st. No, 12th, I think it is. You got Ohio State going to Austin in the big battle. October 12th, the Big Ten. Utes got to get themselves in there. I think Kyle should probably go on and do a podcast and voice his feelings on that. It's been like 3 days. And then whoever gets that, the latest podcast that he agrees to go on, they will act like it's the biggest thing. As he continues to say, realignment, major realignment is coming. And down at BYU, you just heard Kalani Sitake and Aaron Roderick. The battle between Jake Retzlaff and Jibo, Gary Bohannon, it's going to continue. There's no deadline for naming a starter. They may not even name it until like the second quarter, August 31st.
You're both going out in the first series. We're not going to really determine this.
Yeah, that's how tight this thing is. What are your sources telling you, Yakamami?
Jibo is in the lead, but that does not mean that Jake can't make up the ground on his end this week as well. I think this is a pivotal week.
This is the week.
Yeah. 3 weeks in, they're starting to really transition into game week starting next week, so you got to have a feeling, I think, by the end of this week, who's going to be the guy.
Right. Jibo with the slight. Retzlaff still in the mix. I think this is a big week. If Jibo just plays very well this week, then he'll go into it next week as the starter. And then what does that mean in the season? I don't know. Will they have a quick hook? They got to win this year. And they got to win the games that they're supposed to win, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meaning, like, these games right at the start, you got to win them because that's going to help you big time being able to go to 3-0 to get to 6 and blah, blah, blah. So I think, maybe you'd have a quicker hook than you normally have if things aren't working. So whoever doesn't win, certainly keep your head up, man. There's no doubt about that as far as that goes.
Well, and to back you up, Kalani's coached for 8 seasons, PK. You know how many seasons he's had a quarterback finish the entire regular season?
1.
3.
What do you mean finish?
So they've played the quarterback has started all 12 of the regular season games. It happened 3 times in his 10 years BYU football coach. Now, one of those seasons, 2022, remember, that was this game when Jaron Hall was, quote-unquote, high as a kite down there against Notre Dame, and they felt like he was the best option, even though he was clearly not healthy.
True.
So I would say with that caveat, it's only 2 technically that you've finished the entire season with. Those would be 2016 with Taysom Hill, and then 2020 with Zach Wilson.
I thought Hill got hurt in 2016.
He did. Regular season finale. Yeah, he didn't play the bowl game, but he played all 12 regular season games.
Right. That was the historic last, what do they call that bowl game in San Diego?
The San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl.
The Poinsettia Bowl.
In the rain against the Wyoming Cowboys
I
and
could
Josh
say
Allen.
I was there at the final Poinsettia Bowl.
There you go.
And then a week later, I went up to San Jose, and the Utes won the Kraft Bowl or whatever that bowl is called.
Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl.
Is that still around?
I don't think that is anymore.
Yeah.
All of them have moved around so
I know
often.
there were consecutive Wednesdays. I went down the coast and then up the coast. And then the next day, we got word that Lavelle Edwards had passed. I remember sitting in the San Jose airport when I heard that. Okay, let's move on to our Utah Jazz.
Hashtag Utah Jazz.
The Jazz, what was expected has happened. They signed Drew Eubanks, Kyle Filipowski, Johnny Juzang, and Sivi Malakayaluka. I don't know how to say it.
Sivi Mikhailuk.
Yeah, we'll see what that means. And then they got Oscar Tshiebwe. Now, he was signed to a two-way contract because Kinsey was waived. Now, Tshiebwe, and he had some success as far as rebounding at the collegiate level at Kentucky.
It's an absolute load, 6'9", 260.
Yeah. But he's been out for a little bit, so we'll see if maybe he's got a skill there. I mean, he was a fiend for the Wildcats, that's for sure. And we're still about 6-7 weeks away from camp opening up for the Jazz. But they made the move there, and we'll see if they add in his. I think they only got one roster spot available, so maybe their roster is set. Maybe not. We'll see what happens here going forward. All right, let's move on to baseball.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Swinging a line shot. Deep right. Gone! Brooks Baldwin, a 3-run homer. And it's 11-2.
3-0. Swings, hits a high drive, left center field deep. This ball heading back toward the bullpen. It is gone! A 2-run home run. Shohei Ohtani. And the show begins here in Milwaukee. 4-0 Dodgers. Ohtani with his 36th home run.
Pennington delivers, and a line drive left center field toward the gap, and it gets down for a hit. The Red Sox walk it off. Bob Refsnyder with a bullet up the gap in left center. Rafaela scores the winning run, and the Red Sox have a 5-4 walk-off victory.
The Red Sox, they got that 5-4 walk-off victory. Yeah, good for the Red Sox. Way to go. They beat the Rangers in 10 innings. So funny.
I want you to do the entire show with this accent going on.
More Red Sox news. Jarren Duran. Now, what did he do? He was in the home run derby?
Correct.
Yeah, he suspended a couple games. He had an anti-gay slur at a fan sitting behind home plate. His pay will be withheld and be donated to the PFLAG Foundation. Learn from your mistake and move on. But then I thought he wore a T-shirt that, in a post-game interview, that was had the F word on it. You can go look it up.
Let's look that up.
Yeah, I saw that last night. Marlins cleaning house again. First-year GM Peter Bendix firing 2 assistant GMs, 4 field coordinators, and their international scouting director as they begin yet another rebuild. Seems like they've done nothing but rebuild. And how about this one? This is a weird story. Pitcher for Tampa, Ryan Pepiot. He could return to the lineup. He was hospitalized with a knee infection last month that is believed to stem from a spider bite during the All-Star break. That's crazy. And then on to the games. Mookie Betts return. That's why I think the Dodgers will hold on in the NL West despite the Padres and Diamondbacks continuing to win. Both of them won. Betts back. Homers. Kershaw went like 5 1/3, pitched well enough for them to get the win. I think they have enough talent. Arizona, how about that? They're in the 8th inning. They got 2 outs. One guy gets a single. Carroll gets a single. Newman gets a single. You got 1st and 3rd. They send Newman to run to second. A wild pitch scores Carroll to tie the game. Newman on that same pitch since he was running was able to get to third. And then a couple pitches later, another wild pitch. And Newman scores the winning run. Crazy way to win the ball game. The Padres, they continue to win. Jackson Merrill, he had a web gem. He's probably most likely your Rookie of the Year as he has been outstanding. Tatis has been out a while, but with Jackson Merrill doing his thing, they really haven't missed it. And the Braves, Trevor, Matt, what's Snell's first name?
Blake Snell.
Blake. What's I thinking? Trevor.
Trevor Snell? No, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Blake Snell. He had a no-hitter last game, and then he had a no-hitter into the 7th inning this one. And a couple of hits, I think, and they took him out. Anyway, the Braves won 1-0. Travis d'Arnaud had a sac fly in the 10th inning. And the White Sox, the lowly White Sox, Grady Sizemore, he's won and he's got his first win. They clubbed the Yankees 12-2. That's baseball. You never know what's going to happen. The Bees, they open a road series in Sacramento tonight against the River Cats. First pitch is set for 7:45, and coverage with our guy, Tony Parks, will begin at 7:30 right here on The Zone. Now, let's go to DJ's sport, the one he loves with all of his heart.
#NHL.
NHL. Yeah, the hockey club. They broke ground on the new headquarters down there at the Southtown. What do they call it? The shops at Southtown?
The shops at Southtown, yep.
The team headquarters and the practice facility. And they were going to be doing their thing. They said they're going to get that all done in a year?
They're going to be open by the start of the 2025-2026 season. The current location of where Macy's used to be on the very south end.
Yeah, sure.
That's going to be renovated, obviously, but they're going to be add almost like a secondary building onto that into the parking lot that faces 106 South. They'll have 2 full-size ice sheets out there, a team store, all their offices. Think of it as being the Utah Hockey Club headquarters.
Right. It just seems that, man, it's very ambitious. I mean, I know nothing about construction.
Well, they're also talking about building
a
pedestrian bridge over I-15. It's in the next relatively near future to connect the track station there. It's ambitious. You're right.
Yeah, a lot of stuff they got cooking. Good for them. We'll see how that plays out at the south end of our Salt Lake Valley. What is Trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. DJ is on assignment down at Black Desert today, and then I'll be on assignment tomorrow at Black Desert. Everybody's on assignment around here at Black Desert.
Where's my assignment?
I don't know. Well, if you want to jump in my car.
Lloyd, I'm going south. See ya.
I'll be leaving this afternoon. Black Desert. That's our title sponsor, too. Utah's premier golf resort. We're 2 months away from the PGA tournament that they're going to have at Black Desert. Excited about that. Okay, Jake Scott will be coming in. Riley Jensen joining us. And then we've got a thing that we played. I want to replay it for you. Vin Scully, a book on Vin Scully. You got a lot of Dodger fans around here. And a lot of Vin Scully fans because he did more than the Dodgers. He's known for Dodger baseball. And the author of that book will be joining us at 9:05. I think the Snig Dog wants to check in coming up. Stay with us. We'll get to that next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present?
This is JJ and Alex.
This time of year, and you'll see it more in the next couple weeks too, it gets hot. Everybody's attitude gets a little bit more pissy, right? Everyone's mad about, all the work that they've had to do.
It's really hot outside.
Super hot.
Really hot.
You have a little bit of a lack of sleep, and your nutrition is off just a little bit, whatever it might be. Everything kind of adds up to things getting a little chippy in practice, which is, I think the coaches go, hey, we're a team here. Come on now. And then they look at each other and go, I like it. You know what I mean? Like, coaches turn around and go, wake up, you guys, we're a team. And then they turn around, they kind of wink at each other like, yes, they're fired up. That's what you need. That's what you want this time of year.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hot Takes or Toast is brought to you by Siegfried and Jensen with 30 years of serving Utah. The Utes named their backup quarterback. And, man, we got to discuss this, don't we, caller?
We do, host.
Well, you take it away, man. Just because you're not in studio doesn't mean we can't have our normal roles. And if you want, you can check on Facebook and start reading comments like you normally do. But the floor is yours, man. That's obviously DJ's on the line. He's down on assignment down at Black Desert right now. But still, man, this is a big deal.
I just got my first look at Black Desert. Wow.
Wow. One of those words that no matter which way you spell it, it's still the same.
Still wow. The green fairways, the black lava, the red rocks. It's a can't miss combination, I'd have to say. You really can't. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
The question of the morning, Isaac Wilson, Utah's number 2 quarterback. How ideal is this development for the future? I guess right away, PK, as the guy who posed the question, I have to ask you, which future? I would have to say the immediate future, as in the next 12 to, 13, 14, 15, 16 football games, whatever this season ends up comprising, probably not ideal. You'd rather have experience at backup. It's really hard to get. And I guess Sam Heward would represent, the most possible experience in that spot. But we don't get to sit there and chart every play at practice, and you got to play the best guy. If the best guy doesn't have experience and he's the best guy, then there you go. Usually when you say this, how ideal is this development for the future, you're looking at a senior, in this case, seventh-year senior?
Yep.
You're looking at a senior, you're going to need a quarterback next year. But everything we knew about college football for decades just isn't true anymore. So I don't know what it means for next season. With the transfer portal, I mean, you can just look at last season. Well, should they play this guy or should they play that guy? Because, they're developing for the future. And if they play this guy, will that guy transfer? And, well, they played them both, and they both transferred. So no matter what you think you know, you don't know. You don't know what's going through any 19, 20, 21-year-old quarterback's head. You don't know who's going to call with money. You don't know who's going to call with playing time. You don't know who's going to call because there's a family emergency. So I don't see how I can answer the future as far as next year. I just have no idea. There's too many question marks and not enough information. For this year, if he's the best guy, then I guess it's ideal. You want to play the best guy. But I think ideally there'd be some experience there. But this is who they believe in, and this is who they've recruited. So away we go. And if you're fortunate, Cam Rising stays healthy, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I thought about this for the last less than 24 hours, but since the news came out, and my thought is, when the games matter, he'll have experience. He won't have much. The other guys didn't have much. I mean, Rose had 0, right? So that's a wash. And Heward had some a couple years back at Washington and then at Cal Poly. Obviously Cal Poly is not at the level that they'll be playing this season. But the way I look at it, don't worry about Wilson redshirting, right? Because if you got 3 years out of him as a starter, you'll take it if he's good enough, right? So don't even worry about that. And Kyle's not going to be here in 3 years anyway, so...
and he got the 4-game thing with the red shirt, too.
Yeah,
so.
But don't worry about that. Yeah. He will get experience in 16 days. They're going to blow out Southern Utah, right? And Cam Rising, he needs to shake off the rust a little bit, but that will be accomplished by halftime. right? So that's experience right there. Then they've got Utah State and Baylor. Well, they should win both of those games and probably win both of those games comfortably. So that's 2 more games.
So he's played at least 2, if not 3 games before they get to the Big 12.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, they could go 0-3 and still make the playoff. It's not going to happen. But the conference season now with the automatic bid under these current rules that may change down the line, but whatever they are down the line is what they are. They're not what they are now. So if they win the conference, they're in the playoff. Doesn't matter how many losses they've got. I mean, they lost. They had a losing record in non-conference the first year they went to the Rose Bowl, right? So you have this opportunity to get this kid experience immediately. I mean, he could conceivably play an entire quarter. And I wouldn't. The reason why I said don't worry about spotting him the 4 games. Don't pick. You don't need to worry about picking your 4 games. Get him in there those first 3 games. Who cares if he plays 5 games this year? You know what I mean? Well, it's a big deal with Alex Smith. They only got him for a series or something, and then he blows up and he doesn't even use all of his eligibility. So you're right in the fact that you never really know what's going down. And get him in there. He can have an opportunity to get experience. The first snap he takes, he'll have more experience than Rose. And Heward, it's been a while. And you start to wonder, man, these Elite 11 quarterbacks, so many of them don't live up to it in college. Now, maybe Heward's thinking in his handlers, his brother and uncle, or his dad and uncle, who have NFL experience, played at the University of Washington. Maybe they're thinking, hey, you just got there in the summer. Kyle spoke about it yesterday that Isaac Wilson had the opportunity to be in spring ball, graduating early, all that stuff. Well, Heward wasn't there, right? He came after the fact. So maybe Heward is thinking, okay, well, all right, that's just for now, but we'll have another season to go. Who knows? Then we'll have spring ball. Everybody gets an opportunity in spring ball. Then we'll have camp again in 25. Or they're thinking, oh my gosh, man, we gotta leave for a 3rd time. And I'm thinking Kyle, by naming it so early, at least with the Rose situation, unfortunately for the young man, it doesn't look like it's going to happen here. So maybe they want that scholarship back. So give him 2 weeks before the start of the season, son. If you want to go, you can go, and we'll use the scholarship. Heward maybe stick around, maybe not. I don't know what it means for a grad, or not a grad, I always call it grad transfer because that's what it usually was, but a transfer for next year, because I will ask you, if this was the situation going into next year and say Wilson was already the backup number 2 guy, does a kid like Heward then transfer in 25 knowing that a freshman turning sophomore was the backup? I think Heward comes this year because he thinks the backup job is open and the job will be open next year. Well, maybe the job won't be open next year. Would that deter a transfer for coming in?
Depends on the transfer. I guess it depends on how much we see Wilson play and how good he looks, how accomplished he is with whatever time he gets. So I guess that's all to be determined. You know, is he lighting it up in these opportunities he gets in the non-conference? And then what kind of health does Rising have, and what kind of opportunities do you get in conference, or what kind of blowouts are there in conference where he gets more of an opportunity? Again, man, we're making decisions with very little information.
But they should have at least a couple of blowouts in the non-conference.
Yeah, agreed. And how does he look in those? You know, or did they? I guess is the perception from the outside of the program going to be, yeah, the freshman's number 2 because somebody had to be number 2, but I've seen those snaps and I can beat that. I can beat that performance. Or you look at it and think, wow. Now, the other factor is, well, what if there's a coaching change? And when the coaching change is a new offensive coordinator and all bets are off? I mean, there's so many variables out there, PK. I don't see how we can possibly nail all these down.
Isaac Wilson will be your starter in 25. I just nailed it down.
That is a straight line. I mean, that is the old school straight line. Come in as a freshman, back this guy up, learn the offense, take the job, and run with it the next year. But the thing that we've seen over the past 5 years at so many schools is the quarterback position just doesn't seem to go forward in a straight line. BYU has been pretty close to it, although they still haven't had the backups, have had the transfers coming in and taking the job. And at Utah State, I mean, we've seen starters transfer. We've seen them with multiple starters and multiple guys transfer. It's wildly unpredictable. And we've seen that across the country. You know, there's no telling. And if your guy's really good, then does someone swoop in with a massive amount of NIL and away he goes? Indiana's looking at Penix thinking, yeah, great. Great.
Yeah, the coach had bounced around too. I think that was a coaching thing.
Right.
What's his face? The guy who's now down at Alabama and was over there at Fresno.
Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, and then went up to Washington. I think that had something to do with it. As it did with Heward going to Cal Poly. I think he was following a coach there. It might have even been his high school coach who got the job, if I remember, as a coordinator or something. So those types of things happen. But I'm here to tell you, Snake Dog, as we are separated by 300 miles, and I'm feeling the brunt of it not having you to my left, because I've been used to having you to my left for many, many years, and you're not here right now. So I'm a little lost. I'm a little cockeyed, but I will make this statement. Not only will Isaac Wilson be the starter next year, this will influence Kyle Whittingham to stay another 3 years.
You just said earlier he wasn't going to be here in 3 years. And now you just pivot on a dime. You're a beauty.
Well, as you progress, can't I have an evolution of thought?
Absolutely. Not only can you, I think Kyle can. I think, you know, I've told you this off the air, like retirement's a highly personal decision. And if he decides to walk, I mean, Jerry Sloan stunned me. We all knew Sloan was near the end. I didn't know he was going to go one day after a game in the middle of the season. That caught me off guard, to be sure. You know, Kyle will decide to go when he goes. And if he thinks, well, we got a great team coming back. I love my quarterback. I love my D-line. I'm going to do another year. I mean, who's to say? We're like 4 years of speculation down the road on Kyle. It's hard to know. He gets to change his mind, and it could flip-flop either way. He could be deciding he's here, and one day he's gone. And he could be deciding he's gone. No, I'm going to do another year. It's personal, and he's had success, so he gets to call the shot.
Do you think after they beat BYU on November 9th that he says, I'm done right now, like Sloan in the middle of the season?
That would surprise me, because I expect that in November they're going to have a very good record and a very high ranking. I don't think you want to
go out on top.
Have a distraction in the middle of the season and then walk away from the chance to win some more big games.
Well, we even hear about how he's been delegating like crazy, so why not?
That would be awesome in his postgame. Hey, with that, I've accomplished everything I've wanted. A playoff? Nah. And he just gets up and walks out. No, not happening.
There is a lot to be decided for sure, but I think this is potentially significant, if not in fact significant, and the passage of time will determine the level of significance. I understand that, but I think I think it's a shrewd move if you're thinking that, hey, he has an opportunity to be a multi-year starter and get him as much experience this year, because the way the team is set up, there should be at least 5 games where he can get in and play a quarter. You don't want to put him in the last 3 minutes and you're up 40, because it looks kind of cheesy if you're throwing the ball around. But if you put him in the earlier in the second half, like the start of the fourth quarter, I think the guys on the other side, if you're up 30, would understand you got a freshman here and you're trying to develop him. You've got somewhat of an injury-prone starter. You've got a season, plus you've got a program. So my point being, he could throw the ball around a little bit, and rather than just simply hand off to run out the clock, you put him in the last 5 minutes or so and you're up way big, that's another story. And nobody's taking timeouts, so the clock is in real time might only be 6 of the 5 minutes. Might only take 7 minutes to take 5 minutes. Whereas if you got it 12, 15 minutes when he gets in, you know, defenses are playing. There'll be opportunities to go to the sideline and work on stuff. I think it is a potential ideal setup if the team does what we think the team can do, because there should be a few blowouts, and there's a couple of crummy teams, or projected crummy on paper right now, that they play in the regular season that they should be able to handle and get rising out of there. and get Wilson some fairly significant time for a backup.
Yeah, I remember in the late great Pac-12, we'd see some of those games. I mean, there were a lot of great league games, but I remember Cal coming in one year and they just annihilated them, just punished them mercilessly. And those games come along. It's going to happen. There's going to be a team out there that isn't very good and then has to play their backup quarterback, and there'll be time for.
Right.
There'll be time to play and develop the young guy.
So I'm excited to see how this works out. It's a mild surprise, not a major surprise, but it's a mild surprise on a couple of fronts. The fact that he is a freshman, and they're announcing it as early as they're announcing it. I mean, it's just 2 weeks.
And usually coaches will hold on to stuff so guys don't transfer.
Yeah.
So when they announce it early, you got to wonder if they're definitely making guys available to transfer, especially because coaches definitely look at players and put them in a couple, this guy's been a pain in the butt. I'm not going to lift a finger. I'm not going to help him. I don't care. This is a good kid. I like him. I like his family. I want to recruit at his high school down the line. People in the community are going to know, and I hope the best for this kid. So let's move this along. And I get the scholarship back when he moves. And maybe there's somebody in the portal that they like, or maybe there's a walk-on they want to take care of before that walk-on ends up transferring somewhere to get a scholarship.
Yeah. All plausible scenarios. Just as plausible I expect you today probably maybe 3-4 over.
No, that would be great after one hole. There's a lot of videotaping going on. I don't know if there's going to be much golf. I have the clubs. I'm prepared just in case, but there was no time yesterday.
All right. Well, I guess we'll pass each other on I-15.
I know. I didn't know the course was closed 3 days a week and open 4, but they're protecting it, and they're going to close it September 17th.
Yes, they are.
Close it for 3 weeks because the PGA Tour is coming, October 9th through the 13th. And man, it's just talking to Patrick Manning, who spearheads the place. He has so many ideas. Oh my gosh, he makes David Locke look like he has no ideas.
Yeah, I told you that property on the other side of the road there is going to be the Waldorf Astoria times 5 million.
That does seem where things are headed.
Yeah.
He's got so many ideas. He's got ideas for the tour. He's got ideas for the property. He's got ideas for more golf. He's got ideas for the amenities around the golf.
Yeah.
He was actually talking with somebody in between segments we were taping yesterday about hot tubs and how to build them to give people more privacy even though they're in the same hot tub. And when I first heard that, I was like, what? And then when he started describing it, I'm like, well, actually, that makes sense. You put them in a round circle, everybody's facing each other. You feel like you have to talk to somebody. But he was talking about making them kind of shaped in an S, almost kind of like a lazy river thing, except it's not, a river at a water park. But that way people aren't facing each other and don't feel like they have to talk. And for someone like you, that'd be perfect. You're like, yeah, I might want to get in the hot tub on a January night, but I don't want to talk to somebody I don't know.
Okay, well, tell him I think it's a great idea. If he needs me to check it out and try it out, I will do that. Say hello to him for me.
I will do that. All
right, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, there you go. That's our guy, David James. He is down in Black Desert on assignment, and I'm headed down there today for something tomorrow, which I'm not sure what it is, but we'll find out when we get there, I guess. Living life on the fly. All right, Riley Jensen, our quarterback expert, he's joining us at the top of the hour. What do you think, man? Is this monumental? Is this a significant decision? What are the ramifications? What do they do, Yak? They download the app. They can click on there, and we can hear their lovely voices.
Yeah, so you just download the KSL Sports app. Down in the lower left corner, you'll see a thing. I think it says feedback or talkback, or you'll see it. It's a little microphone. Tap it. Record it. It'll send it right to me, and we'll be able to play them on air.
I think this has the potential to be significant. What do you folks think? Download the app. We'd love to hear from you.
It's the call-in feature. That's what it is.
Call-in feature, or I guess, I don't know, whatever the number is, you can call in. I don't even know what the phone number is.
801-575-ZONE.
575-ZONE. I think this is a big news, and we will continue. We'll talk to Riley Jensen at the top of the hour about this. He's going to join us. Jake Scott's coming in. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Coaches poll came out last week. Utah was ranked 13th. The AP poll came out, and Hans, Utes ranked number 12. I had a conversation with somebody who's knee-deep in the TV side with ESPN, and right now ESPN is planning on Utah being in the college football playoff, and their early season coverage is going to indicate that. Plan on a lot of national love coming University of Utah's way. Whether Kyle Whittingham wants it or not, because he loves that underdog role, they're looked at as the team that's going to come out of the Big 12 and represent that conference and be part of that initial 12-team college football playoff. Now, whether that happens, who knows? But when you look at the depth and the talent that they have, if they stay healthy, there's no reason why this team isn't one of those final 12 at the end of the season.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Band of the day is Coldplay, and it's brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts and events in 2024, check out livenation.com. Is that Chris Martin? Is that the guy?
Correct.
And he was hooked up with the gal who got sued for running into somebody on a ski.
Paltrow, yes. And which is now like a stage play.
And she gave did she lose? She won, but was awarded $1 or something?
$1 in damages.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow, whose mother is Danner. Some lady who's, Blythe Danner? Is that it? Yeah, I think so. How about that? Okay, man, quarterback news. And we got the quarterback of the show that you hear from 10 to noon, and also the quarterback of the Jazz radio broadcasts as far as the studio work, Jake the Make Scott. Because he makes it happen at all times. Jake the Make.
I don't know about that. I don't know about the quarterback comparison either. I've always thought of myself more as like the punter.
No. Danny White, he was a punter and a quarterback. Jim McMahon was a punter and a quarterback.
The great David James is forced to go down to a beautiful golf resort. And what do, PK? You punt. You call me. It's like, we'll just punt.
No, I'll get the quarterback in here. Get him some extra work so he's ready to go when conference starts. Just like they're doing with our man, Isaac. Don't ever call me Zach Wilson, a freshman.
Don't ever call me Zach?
Yeah.
Okay.
I get confused sometimes.
I'm eager to hear from Riley because Riley's seen him a lot.
He has?
Yeah.
That's why I wanted him to come on. He's a first-hand eyewitness expert. Maybe he's, speaking of Isaac Wilson, has developed more than I thought. Because I think you have to look at high schoolers somewhat jaded.
Meaning?
Because the real good ones pile up these impressive stats. But it doesn't always work at the college level. I mean, 2 quarterbacks right now who are 5-star out of the Seattle area. I can name you 2.
Okay.
You can name you 2.
Heaps.
And this Heward.
Okay.
That's 2.
That is 2.
And it doesn't look like it's going to happen for them.
Well, didn't you were the one who did all the stats, not stats, I guess, but the Elite 11 stuff where you looked at all the transfers and all that? Yeah. It's almost like draft picks in the NBA. It's like you have no idea, and really you'll know maybe a couple of years. And it's because anytime you move levels, it's a different thing. It's a different speed, different game plans, different coaching, different lifestyle, different everything.
Do you think the Elite 11 might be the most overblown status symbol that we have in sports?
Yes. Well, it's not for high school. I mean, achieving it at the high school level is in and of itself certainly an achievement.
It is, absolutely.
But from the lens of covering college sports.
But that's the way we look at it.
Agree with you. Yeah.
These guys are rated 5-star, 4-star, you see on social media, and oh man, I spent 2 hours last night on Twitter/X, if you get my drift. Yeah, I got some thoughts on that too. I am fired up for sure. So I was big time into that last night. But you see that all the time. What are you smiling for?
Nothing. Nothing.
Actually, I didn't spend 1 second, but you see, they'll list the schools 4-star, 5-star. How many 4 stars, how many 5 stars? And it's usually the Ohio States and the Alabamas of the world got the most. So it does matter.
Kind
of. You have to have a little caveat there.
Well, sorry, Hatch, I know we got to go, but you're opening up the thing. Like, are those players 5 stars because of their? Is Alabama getting the 5 stars because those kids are rated 5 stars because they're going to Alabama? Does that make any sense?
There might be some, but then it usually follows it up how many guys end up being in the pros.
Because the majority of the people evaluating in the stars process are also delivering pizzas for a living. So,
some of them, yeah.
Right.
And according to Bronco Mendenhall, his famous line.
They get word from coach, oh, well, if Utah's all over this guy, then he must be a 3-star. Or if USC's all over this guy, well, he must be a 5-star. And it just has to do with people are weak and don't know what they're looking
sort
at.
Of
but
feeds
have to,
itself.
Right, which
Yeah.
is weird and stupid, but makes it even more complicated.
All right, we'll talk to our quarterback expert next, Riley Jensen. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Okay, welcome back in. DJ's on assignment. He'll be back tomorrow. We had him on. Big news coming out of Utah's camp. They decided to go with the freshman. First-year freshman did have spring ball, Isaac Wilson as the backup to Cam Rising, thinking that maybe that gives him a leg up. Now, somebody who's worked with him and knows quarterbacks in and out is Riley Jensen. Jake Scott sitting in. Riley, good morning. What did you think when you heard that announcement?
I thought it was apropos, right? Like, I thought that was about what I thought was going to happen.
You did? You thought it was going to happen. And by the way, neither of us speak French.
On our show.
We don't speak French, so don't give me the apropos stuff. Speak regular English here. Don't get all fancy. You thought it was going to happen.
I did think it was going to happen. I talked about it.
I'm not denying that you said that. I'm not denying that.
You're so disagreeable. I don't know what to do with you.
I didn't think that it was going to happen. You did. So you're not surprised. I'm at least mildly surprised.
Here's why I'm not surprised. The reason why I'm not surprised, number one, Isaac was a phenomenal quarterback at Corner Canyon High School, and all of the quarterbacks thus far that have played at Corner Canyon, it feels like have gone on to play well at the next level when they've gotten their chance. So there's a pretty good opportunity for a player that plays for Eric Kerr in that high school program to have that translate to the next level. But when you go into a quarterback competition, and this is why you have to be careful when you're getting older in your career in football, and you need to win one of those competitions early in your career, is because the underclassman always has the advantage because they're projecting that if it's even, then the younger guy is the guy that you go with. So really, all Isaac had to do, and I don't take that phrase lightly, but all he had to do was play even with the other quarterbacks to win the competition, where the other two quarterbacks had to be significantly better than the others in order to win the competition. Because you're projecting into the future, you're projecting into what he can be, not what he is. And if it's even, then he's going to get the nod. Now, he has the size, he has the arm strength, he has the athletic ability. There's been plenty of highlights of Isaac Wilson making great throws and great decisions. He comes from a family that, the one thing that I have to compliment Mike Wilson on, and Isaac and Zach, is they're football junkies. They love the sport. They love the game. There's no question that Isaac was in the film room. There's no question that in spring ball he was sucking in and soaking in as much information as he could from Cam Rising, from the coaches and the coaching staff and Coach Ludwig. And so to me, it's not a surprise from the standpoint of you don't have to do as much when you're young. And I'm not taking away from him winning the second spot. You don't have to do as much to win the second position.
Mechanically, Riley, what does he do right?
Well, mechanically, there's not a lot that he does wrong. If I were to be critical of him, it's when he gets a little bit lazy with his feet that he gets into throwing errors, meaning his feet are facing one way and he's throwing the other. But for the most part, I mean, this is a guy that has really, really solid mechanics. He's a very, very athletic player, and I don't think he's quite as athletic as Zach, but I think in some ways his arm strength is better. I don't know if his accuracy is where Zach's was as a freshman in college, but he's pretty dang close. And so there's a lot to be happy about and a lot to be excited about with Isaac Wilson in the second-string quarterback position. The other thing that I thought was a telltale sign was you have Howard that was coming in really, really late into the game because he's coming in after spring ball. And really with Rose, I think if we were reading the tea leaves, the fact that he didn't play in the bowl game last year and that they didn't play him and that they didn't give him an opportunity to step up and play in that bowl game was a big indicator about how they feel about whether he could be a future starting quarterback at the University of Utah.
Riley Jensen joining us, quarterback extraordinaire and mental health coach. So you definitely think this says more about Wilson rather than a slight to the others, or is it a combo?
What do you mean by slight?
Well, they're not good enough. So Isaac didn't necessarily needed to wow. He just needed to be okay because the others aren't good enough. I don't know. I'm asking. I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah. So I think it's more of a slight. I think it's more of a slight to Rose. I think that you and DJ and that you and Jacob brought up some good points about Howard. I mean, what sort of decision do you make now? I mean, it's really only that you lost the second string position. Now, the hard part about now that this decision has been made is the third and the fourth string quarterback get hardly any reps during team. The only other quarterback that gets reps during team, and it's about 20% of the reps, is the second string quarterback. And that's where Isaac now gets to develop himself, and he gets to step in as a leader. He gets looked at a little bit differently by teammates, and he gets to grow into that leadership position as maybe the incumbent. But as you and DJ pointed out earlier in the hour, it's hard to just say that without an exception to the rule, because football is so different now with NIL and with free transfers and with money that is going out and around everywhere. I don't know that it's just a straight line for Isaac like it used to be, but it's certainly a big step in the right direction for him, and it's certainly grounds for celebration in the Wilson home, because you're doing the things that you're being asked to do. Nobody was asking him to come in and beat out Cam Rising. They were asking him to come in and compete for that second string job. And as of right now, and it always changes in college football, but right now he's the second string quarterback, and that's a big start for him.
How much do you think the probability of a quarterback transferring plays into decisions on depth charts?
More than it ever has. Less at the University of Utah, in my opinion, because I don't think Kyle likes quarterbacks anyway. I mean, and I don't mean that he hates them, but like he tolerates them. I don't know how to explain. Other than Cam Rising, I've never seen him like really embrace a quarterback like he's the stuff weekends are made of. I do think that he really likes Cam Rising, but I think in general he doesn't love quarterbacks. He doesn't care about whether they transfer or not.
He was
winning 10 games a year long before any good quarterbacks came into the program.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. That's not how he's built his program. He hasn't built his program on quarterbacks.
Riley Jensen joining us. What is the deal with all these Elite 11 quarterbacks who are awesome in high school, credible stats, all that, but just don't pan out and then have multiple transfers in college because it seems like it may not be the norm, but it certainly isn't unusual.
Well, I heard you and Jake talking about it. I looked it up a long time ago. I went through every single quarterback, and I divided it into quarterbacks that start in the NFL, quarterbacks that you've heard of, and quarterbacks that you've never heard of. And it was about 50% that you've never heard of. Yeah. So the quarterbacks that started in college and started in the pros, it was a little bit less than 50%. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot when it comes to Elite 11, but I think it goes back a little bit to the mindset of being rewarded too early. I mean, and this may be my background causing a little bit of bias on this, but there's significant evidence that shows that if someone is willing to pass up good for great, they seem to be more successful and more happy in this life. And there's a whole marshmallow experiment with kids where they're like, hey, there's one marshmallow sitting in front of you, but if you wait, you'll get two of them. And the kids that actually wait and are willing to kind of be able to see into the future that there could be something better, they're the ones that test out better in life and those sorts of things. And so I'm telling you a long story to get to the point of quarterbacks that are given too much early, I think are less motivated when they get to the next level. And the best example I can give is that with the exception of John Elway and the Manning brothers, okay, those would be the exceptions to the rule. Most quarterbacks that are really, really good in college and end up being really good in the pros aren't at their dream school. You look at Drew Brees, do you think his dream school was Purdue, right?
No, a kid from Texas, probably not.
Yeah. Phillip Rivers grew up in Alabama. You think his dream school was North Carolina State? And I can go down the list of all these guys that continually had the carrot dangled in front of them, and so they continue to grow and progress. And I can even make an argument in other positions like first-team All-Americans in college. It takes them a minute to find their way in the NFL. And so I think there's something to the fact that you have that chip on your shoulder. You feel like you're never recognized for how good you are, and you continue to grow and progress. And I think that's why some Elite 11 quarterbacks, they can't handle it. Not to pile on Jake Heaps, but that was a guy who played at Skyline High School in Washington. He had 4 Division I wide receivers. I watched him play 7-on-7 when he was in high school. He was never on a team that had bad players around him. And everything was snowplowed and everything was arranged for him to play really, really good football no matter where he was. And his first experience with adversity was when he got to BYU. And I feel like it broke him a little bit because he never had to experience some of those difficulties. Everybody that was around him, whether he went to an Elite 11 camp or whether he went to the Under Armour, All-Stars, whatever it was, there was always great people around him. And when he got to BYU and he had to fight on his own merit for a minute, it didn't help him. And he ended up, he was one of those guys that transferred to 3 different schools before all these rules happened.
Yeah.
And so I think a healthy dose of adversity and a healthy dose of some sort of experience that builds moxie for a quarterback in high school is really helpful to the next level. And so to get there, it's difficult, and it's difficult to maintain a high level of play at that position.
So you speak of first-team All-Americans needing a little bit of time. How about first-team All-Whackers?
The joke that never dies, right? The joke that never dies. Listen, both of you guys sitting in that room right now, you guys both have some quotes that we can't even replay on the radio.
Agree.
Otherwise,
we shouldn't even talk about
They'd be number one. They'd be number one.
I'm just amazed that we still have
first team All-Whacker.
That drop. Do you know how old that drop is?
Dude, it's made it through 3 different radio groups. I mean, I don't want to get into like which radio groups, but it's gone from one to another, and this is now the third, and it's at least, I think it's 20 years old. When did Kobe Carl play? Because I was talking about Kobe Carl.
Is Kobe Carl still alive?
I don't know. I think him and his dad have had cancer, and they're doing well, but
he's a first team all whacker.
That was back in our taco maker Jake's Over the Top days, Riley.
It was.
Yeah, buddy. It was good times.
Exactly right.
That's good times.
Right.
Who are you referring to again?
Kobe Carl.
Kobe Carl.
He was a first teamer.
He's a first team all whacker.
Yeah,
so it says he earned first team all whack honors in 2007. So we're talking 17 years ago, guys.
Yeah, that's a long time.
17 years ago, and this joke is still alive. Wow.
The best ones always survive, I guess.
They're classics, yes.
The best ones have to die, or else we'd all get in trouble on the airwaves.
What's the Eagles' most famous tune? Hotel California. What's Riley Jensen's most famous line?
He's a first team all whacker.
Yeah, you don't live. You don't see the other ones you're referring to aren't that good because we can't play them. That one we can.
It was so innocent and so pure when it came out, and now it just feels like I'm a terrible person. So.
You know that these guys used to call Riley the Aggie under the bleachers? What was that all about?
I think that was DJ.
That's how I got my start. I actually remember talking to DJ and saying, well, just put me on. I'll talk about the Aggies for a 20-minute segment. You can call me the redheaded stepchild because that's how we're treated up at Utah State, And then he changed it. He changed it to Aggie under the bleacher.
Yeah, that was DJ's term.
I remember.
It was.
So, do you think? It's just a guess, and won't hold you to it. But do you think this time next year, Isaac Wilson is QB1 for the Utes?
I do, but it will be after like a really, really deep competition into the fall. So yes, and like you and DJ were talking about, there's so many things that can happen between now and then. I still think he'll be in the mix regardless of what happens.
Oh, certainly in the mix, but I'm talking about does this give him a significant leg up that once this 24 season ends, that he then becomes installed when we go into spring ball next March, he's the guy.
I'm predicting that by next year at this time, he will be the starter.
Okay, there it is. All right.
I mean, look, I already nailed number 2. I already nailed that he was going to be number 2. You should listen to me.
I am. You first team all whacker, you get so defensive every time I speak.
I don't understand why this is so hard for you to understand. I'm a big deal. I keep telling you I'm a big deal.
I know you are. I had my doubts because I got other folks in my ear saying his arm isn't big enough, he's too small, and that's what they've told me. It's not necessarily my opinion. I don't know.
You're a lot like my wife, right? You trust me, but you verify.
Well, I got information from other folks saying different things. And, the Utes were under pressure to recruit him, a local guy. You don't want to get another local guy get away. And maybe those folks were wrong. It wasn't my opinion. It's what people were telling me. But you're telling me something that is basically the opposite and is getting me excited for the kid.
I'll tell you this. There's a lot of growth that takes place in college football. The one problem that I had with Isaac when he was in high school is I felt like there was 1 to 2 throws a game that were head scratchers that could have or should have been picked off. And when teams were able to pick him off, they were able to beat him. But a lot of guys in high school weren't able to convert that. So he's going to have to fix that at this level. And it sounds like he's doing a pretty good job of that at the University of Utah.
And some of his detractors also said he was a year older than everybody else in high school. And they wondered how that would eventually that washes out in college.
Yeah, okay. He's a good football player. Okay,
there it is. All right. Hey, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. We will be talking to you regularly throughout the season.
Can't wait.
There you go.
Soon.
See you, Riley.
That's Riley Jensen. He knows his stuff. next year. They've already got their starting quarterback for the next 3 years on their roster. That's awesome. Guys like Jake Scott are fired up, and we will get to that next as to the reasons why. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Larry Markkinen agreed to a renegotiated contract this year, bringing his salary from $18 to $42 million. I think it's a good day for the Jazz. If you're a Jazz fan, you're happy about what this means for your team. Lowry truly could have waited a year, played out this deal. He's got $18 million left, and just said, you know what, I'm going to get a max contract next year anyways, and I can choose where I want to go. He chose to stay here. This is a good sign for the Jazz. This is a player in his prime who's an all-star on a losing team that is choosing to stay here.
I doubt that Lowry thinks in his mind that all of a sudden he morphed into an all-star between Cleveland and Utah. I think he likes getting the ball. He probably doesn't think he changed as a player or deserved more or got better. He probably thought, like, these bozos in Cleveland don't know what they got.
Yep.
They got the finisher, baby.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest. And then you listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals. All right, Jake Scott sitting in. He's ecstatic that the Utes have named a backup, a youngster who could be the starter for the next 3 years after 24 season, which means the glory and the great times will continue into the foreseeable future. How about that?
The glory and the great times? I wouldn't say I'm ecstatic. I don't know. Do you believe it?
Do I believe? What are you?
Do you believe it?
Do
you
you
believe
Deion Sanders over here?
No. Do you believe he's the second best quarterback or even the second string quarterback?
Yes.
Because I've heard a lot of people, Ben included, selling me this on Witt missed on Zach Wilson, and so now he's got to do this for Isaac Wilson, and those things are somehow related. And I asked Riley about this, but I can't but help think that the transfer status and things like that are coming in. And, I mean, if it's a true meritocracy and he's the second best quarterback on the league, that's probably good news for Ute fans. But no. I don't know. All this other stuff creeps in that makes me not believe it, or at least doubt it.
Well, there's a couple things. Did you notice, Jacques, he said second best quarterback on the league?
The team.
Man.
He's
already, yeah.
All right.
Utes got it's like Gonzaga. They don't only have the best big man in the conference, they got the second best big man and the third best big man.
Thank you, Tim McComb.
Utah's quarterback room is so deep. And with all the money that Cam Rising has made, that quarterback room, it's got a sauna in there. It's got a big screen TV. It's got a buffet that is catered daily. And Wilson comes from money. Man, they're living high up there, aren't they?
What's your point?
I only know what the man says. And Whittingham says he's got a live arm. He's got mobility. He's making balls coming out like a freaking cannon shot out of a gun.
And coaches would never manipulate messages for personal gain. I mean, that would never.
So what's his personal gain?
Well, if it keeps Wilson from transferring, or if it really is some sort of political, like you got to play to the freshman because I burned his brother, which seems ridiculous to me, but it's out there. Ben was saying it yesterday. So I don't know. That stuff.
There's stuff that goes into that. I'll tell you what I have heard. And you don't like it, if you want to crack on me, feel free. I don't worry about that stuff anymore. I'm secure in my employment. That I'll address the transfer thing. I once asked Kyle in a group setting, not off to the side, so it was available for everybody. One of these, who was it, Tuttle or Costelli, one of these guys that they had. Yeah. Do you worry about them transferring? And he looked at me and he basically said, I don't give a bleep. If they want to transfer, go. He said it very aggressively. I'm not here to make these guys happy. I'm here to win games. So I don't think he cares about that. I think that was legit. Now, as far as the Wilson thing, yes, they blew it on Zach. There's no doubt about it.
Well, and Jackson Dart, too. I mean, it's happened a couple of times.
Not as much on Dart as Zach.
How so?
Because I don't think they thought he was good enough.
Dart?
No, Wilson.
Oh, okay.
The Dart thing may have been you got in a little late, that type of thing. But then, how many quarterbacks has Utah won versus SC? Well, you're going to win that.
If Utah, I mean, you can blame it on being in late, but if Utah had handled it, I bet he would have gone to Utah. I don't want to speak for him.
Over USC, kids get stars in their eyes. Urban Meyer, famous line: "The kids in California."
Okay, I got you. Fine.
We recruit whoever those two schools don't take.
You were.
So I don't know about that one.
Relaying something you heard, but I'm relaying something I heard. So I don't know. I don't know if it.
But I think I
can't
it's
rewrite
more
history.
Egregious on the Zach thing.
Okay. I don't think it's great either way.
Right. You got me there. I agree with you. I'm just saying.
So this is some sort of compensation? Like, I'm not going to.
Well.
Making up for bad decisions in the past? Because that sounds like chasing it.
I think there is some pressure. The Matt Harpering story that was told to me while I was eating dinner, I think it was, maybe lunch with Matt, is that he's lighting it up in Atlanta. But Bobby Cremins at Georgia Tech doesn't offer him. And he's getting all sorts of grief, Cremins is. You didn't offer this kid right in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And in the spring, Harpering, I think, is playing baseball. He gets a call, says, "You got to come down to my office." If I remember the story, this is many years ago that Matt had told me this. He gets called out of baseball practice, goes down to Georgia Tech, which is in downtown Atlanta, basically. Cougars played there. I've been on their campus. And Cremins brings him into the office and says, "I'm catching all sorts of crap here. I'm going to offer you a scholarship, but I don't think you're going to play. So don't give me crap. But if you want it, it's yours." So he takes it, right? And this is in the spring. Goes to summer workouts, practice. Starter first game. Starts the whole time. Ends up being one of the top 50 players in the ACC, which at the time I think the Big 12 has overtaken it. But for many, many years, the ACC was the best basketball college basketball.
No, and
college.
he was a great college basketball player. But
right. He played many years in the NFL. Meaning that Cremins felt pressure. I think the Utes felt some pressure. We can't let another quarterback get away. So what you're saying that Ben was saying, I've heard too, that we got to at least offer this kid.
Sure, but they put him number 2 on the depth chart.
Right, they offered him, and how much of it was a courtesy offer, a local kid? We can't have another local kid just in case he blows up.
No, I see. My point is,
he's got to come here. We got to get this kid.
I hope you're correct because I'm fine. That's how it's supposed to work. And frankly, I shouldn't say supposed to work because this is his program or Utah's program, and they can do whatever they want. I don't care.
But you get pressure when local kids go away, just like BYU gets pressure when LDS kids go away. Double the pressure if it's a local LDS kid, but even if it's an LDS kid anywhere.
But your story about Witt, I don't care. I mean, you can say that all you want, but McKay Hillstead just the other day admitted that he transferred from Utah State because they had the gall to recruit an upperclassman. And he said, he actually used the word entitled, that I'm entitled to more.
He said
so
that?
he transferred.
There was an interview that the Spencer Petras thing pushed him out the door is what he essentially said.
And it might be easy to have that opinion about Tuttle and
he had some personal reasons too.
Well, I
don't know.
I can tell you.
I'll read you the quote.
The quote is out there. Yes,
I didn't see the quote. I missed that one.
knowing what I know
I'm
of his...
disappointed in myself that I missed it.
It's okay, but knowing what I know of his backstory, there's more in play than just that. But
right.
he did say that the Spencer Petras coming into Utah State helped him show himself to the door.
As a freshman?
Yes.
So
he doesn't think that's going to happen at BYU? They're just going to open up their blue sea and he can walk across it?
That's what I thought, that he's fine with. What does that say about Utah State? Where it's like, I'm not sitting at Utah State, but at BYU, I'm happy to be third string. It kind of is,
But he didn't have a problem that the pig farmer came. That's a slight to the pig farmer.
Agreed.
Who's currently QB too.
No, and I'm not exactly trying to pick on Hillstead, other than this stuff plays into it. I mean, Riley said it does. He said he doesn't think it plays into it much at Utah, but it plays into it big time.
What do you mean, this stuff?
Placating players so they don't transfer. That's part of the game now. Well, you can be grumpy about it all you want, but that's what they got to do.
Yeah, but see, I think you just got to go and do what's right, and whatever happens. They got burned by Nate Johnson. They didn't want Nate Johnson to transfer.
No, they wanted him to transfer positions.
Move positions.
I know.
Change.
I know.
What defensive spot did they need?
Yeah, right. Where could they put the fastest guy on the team?
Yeah.
I'm sure they didn't want him to transfer. And I remember, who were the quarterbacks there? One was Manning. There were three guys they recruited in 1 year.
Oh, yeah. Was it Brandon Cox?
Yes, Brandon Cox. And for years, they managed that situation to keep both of them from transferring. And then I remember they both ended up transferring.
They did.
But Cox didn't transfer until like 2 or 3 weeks into camp because the depth chart came out and he was third or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
I actually think he got his degree.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He was there. He was there for a while.
He was a highly intelligent kid.
And then bounced, and they held off that decision for so long to try and keep him from transferring.
Understood. And then didn't they have a kid, Corbin Laux?
Yes,
who transferred late.
Yeah, ended up being a safety at Nevada.
Went to Nevada.
Yeah,
and it was like, was it game week? Training camp had ended,
and then he bolted.
Yeah, it's like a couple of days. Well, my gosh, Brewer quit during the season.
Yeah,
DJ's Charlie Brewer
starts for 2 games, and like a week later, you're right. He started the first 3 games.
Yeah,
gets benched, and like a week later, he's out.
I think he was gone that Monday.
I think you're right. Yeah, he bolted immediately.
Yeah.
So I guess long and short, I mean, if you actually think he's the second best quarterback on the roster right now, there's reasons to be optimistic for Ute fans.
Why they named it early.
Call me skeptical, but I don't know.
Okay, skeptical. When we come back, we'll talk about BYU's quarterback situation with skeptical right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
I have the hardest time because I have no foresight and I'm not patient enough. I have the worst time imagining that the last 6 draft picks are going to be what the Jazz build a championship team off of. And then you say add maybe that one big name, probably 2.
That's why the next 2 drafts are so important. I'm not sold on they have an all-star in these last 2 drafts. I'm not sold on that yet. Doesn't mean they can't. Maybe Cody Williams is going to be that guy. Maybe one of these guys emerges as an all-star. I don't know. We don't know yet. But the next 2 drafts have the better options, the more sure bets at the top. You want to be in play for those. You can't guarantee anything, but you need to be in play because the Jazz need that player that can change their franchise fortune around, and the only way they're going to find it is in the draft because that's how it's done now. We're sitting here talking about what's that trade out there the Jazz could make to become a playoff contender. It doesn't exist right now.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Don't miss your chance to win big every week on the Zone. This week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you can win a 4-pack of tickets to catch the Salt Lake Bees in action during the 2024 season. Listen to the Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win free tickets at the ballpark, the last year of the ballpark. How about that? A beautiful ballpark. But they're going to go out to daybreak. That's going to be open in time for next season. The ice facilities of the hockey team and the offices, that's going to be open by next season. Man, so much construction going on in Salt Lake City, Utah, and surrounding areas. What's Daybreak? It's not in Salt Lake. I don't know. What's it in?
Harriman?
Harriman? I don't know.
It's technically Harriman, I believe.
Is it technically Harriman?
Oh, well,
so.
it straddles
Or South Jordan,
It
maybe.
straddles South Jordan and Harriman, I believe.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens. And then in the next 10 years, maybe a baseball park. Wow. Guys like you two, the two Jakes, when they're doing the morning show, and it's called The Two Shakin' with the Jakins.
That's a terrible name.
Yak and Yak?
Better than, what was that?
A pair of Jakes. A pair of Jakes.
Yeah.
A winning hand in the morning in 2035.
You'll still be rooting for the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Phillies, and Cubs?
Giants.
Yeah. The Giants and the Dodgers. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Got to root for both.
Willie Mays was my hero as a kid.
I don't understand how you're so heavy into the NL West.
Turned out that way, huh?
I mean, are you happy every year, or I guess you're only
happy every day?
You're
what do you
only
mean every year.
You're only miserable if the Rockies win,
and they never do.
And they never do. The Rockies ever won.
Last night,
you'd be bent.
I'm watching the game. The Diamondbacks they're down 4-3 in the 8th inning, and 2 outs, and they're the home team. So it's the bottom of the 8th. They get a single. And then they get another single, so they got first and third, right? 2 outs. They send the runner and wild pitch, so the runner from third scores. Now the game's tied. It's 2 outs. The runner who's from first, who was running on the pitch, jogs to third, right? So 2 outs, and there was another wild pitch, and they score the winning run.
Nothing like losing games on wild pitches. I've done that.
And then Diamondbacks are struggling with their closers. They've been running through guys left and right. Bringing this guy, first guy, McMahon's a good hitter for the Rockies, probably their best player, gets a base hit. So they got tying run on, nobody out. Next batter hits a line drive, nice hard hit, but right at the second baseman. McMahon, it's a line drive. What do you do on a line drive? That's
freeze.
Not. Yeah. Well, he takes off. He gets off too far. Second baseman catches it, throws it over to first.
Double play.
2 outs. So, is this the NBA version? Are they trying to get the number 1 pick here? I mean, like they were throwing the game, literally.
Probably.
Throwing it away. Yeah, they had a chance to win, but no. Bleeped it away. So, yeah, I'm always happy. How about the BYU quarterback situation? They're not going to name a starter. If it goes to game week, I'm wondering if they don't name a starter until the second quarter of the first game.
The second quarter.
Yeah.
That's when they'll name it when it's not the start of the game.
There's an announcement in the press box. Just so you guys know, we have declared that.
Well, your beloved Whittingham did that once, right? With, who was it? Terrible Tommy Grady and who was the other guy?
Brian Johnson?
Brett Ratliff? Was that it?
Yeah.
Where he did first quarter with one and second quarter with the other against UCLA, I want to say.
Well, that never works. Although, didn't they kick the crap out of him?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it. It's so long ago now.
You got a problem here? We're 2 weeks into camp now, and they still Utah not only has a starter, they've got a backup. BYU doesn't even have a starter.
Well, if I listen to you, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be a meat grinder at the quarterback position because they're going to run him the whole time, and they're
going to run him into the end zone for 6 is what they're going to do.
Just plugging in bodies.
You watch November 9th, buddy. Me against you. My beloved Cougars against your beloved Utes.
So what? I mean, does it matter?
Yes, it matters.
Because all I've heard about is help with the run game.
Help with the run game? What do you mean?
Which quarterback is going to help with the run game? Is these quarterbacks are going to really help with the run game?
I think that they have because they have 2 guys that they think can win. I think that they'll allow the quarterback to run. They'll maybe call running plays, whereas before the last couple of years they were petrified if the quarterback got hurt. And it's not like they want to put the guy in a dangerous situation and who cares about his health, but they think that if they need to call a play in which is a design run play or the quarterback can take off, go ahead. Jaron Hall had the ability, but they couldn't afford to get him hurt.
And he had a history.
Slovis was not a running quarterback.
No, but were they petrified Keaton Slovis was going to get hurt?
Well, I think it's a dual thing there, not necessarily petrified, but running wasn't his strength, so don't do it anyway because it's not what you do.
But if they were petrified that Keaton Slovis was going to get hurt, his backup was?
Last year, it ended up being Retzlaff.
So they were petrified to go to the guy
who had zero experience.
Yeah, they're going to go to now.
And they went 0-4 with him as the quarterback. So, yeah.
Right.
The logic is there.
So I don't understand about much optimism. I mean, they need a guy who can sling it. Listen, if Bohannon is healthy and he can throw it all over the field now, well, then that's great because I don't know if they have that. And I think that's exactly what they need. I don't know why why we even care about quarterbacks helping with the run game. Who cares? Let the run game figure out the run game. Can you drop back and pass it or not?
And that's the number one thing for sure. But at the same time, you had to acknowledge that Kyle, in one of his listing of attributes of our guy Isaac Wilson, said he's mobile. And running, a mobile quarterback isn't necessarily running to gain yards. It's potentially extending plays.
Yeah, I
think that's important too.
But I don't personally love Coach Witt's vision of what a good quarterback is. And I certainly don't think he's necessarily made the right decisions. And his vision of what a good quarterback is not the same as what a good quarterback is at BYU.
His vision comes from the defensive perspective in terms of how to defend it.
Yeah, fine.
And he believes a mobile quarterback is harder to defend.
Yes,
so that's why he's fallen in love with the mobile quarterback.
I don't think that's going to work at BYU. I don't think that works at BYU.
What doesn't work?
You don't need a mobile quarterback. Why are you prioritizing mobile quarterbacks? Did Norm Chow give two rips if Ty Detmer could run? It's can you stand back there? This is BYU. This is quarterback university. Can you stand back there and sling it? Don't waste your time with this guy can help.
Well, you got to be able to
move.
Detmer can move. He could slide.
He's not. You know what I'm talking about. Ty Detmer was not a run guy. And you know what? Steve Young could move too, but he wasn't a run guy either.
They didn't want that.
They should want it now. That's my point.
But I think the game has changed.
Okay. Well, go away. What's worked for 40 years and
but what's worked? That just because something worked in 1992 it means it's going to work in 2024?
Except for it's worked repeatedly and as recently as Jaron Hall, as you just mentioned, to have an upperclassman NFL quarterback who can freaking sling it. We can go list them off. You can list them off.
They didn't want him to run because of injury, and he was injured anyway. And he's an injury-prone guy. He got injured right off the bat in college. I mean, in the NFL.
Utah's had two NFL quarterbacks since Scott Mitchell.
Alex and Ratliff?
Well, you could kind of count Ratliff. I guess he was on the practice squad forever.
I thought he got in. Tyler Huntley.
That's what I'm saying.
Huntley?
I'm talking about Huntley.
Yeah.
How many pro quarterbacks has BYU had in that same span of time?
Well, what was that? 2004 till like 2019? I'd have to look that up.
I mean, if you want to, you could say Ty if you put that.
Well, he wasn't in that category. He would have been before.
Well, Scott Mitchell graduated in 88.
You said Mitchell. I thought you said Alex.
No, Mitchell. So since Scott Mitchell, not counting Scott. So we're talking 90s, aughts, 10s, and
that's a long time, man.
That's what I'm saying. Utah's had two. BYU's had 6, 7.
Do I hear 8? Do I hear 9?
Right?
I have to go back and look. Off top, I don't know.
Brandon Doman, Ty Detmer, Max Hall, John Beck, Zach Wilson, and Jaron Hall. That's 6 right there. And I'm not even counting Taysom Hill.
Yeah, but I think Yak would say they so poo-poo.
Why?
And you can quote me. Okay, coming up next, I have a friend who wrote a book about Vin Scully. Did you like Vin Scully? Did you listen to him much growing up?
No.
I listened to him religiously growing up when I moved to Arizona.
Don't care for the Dodgers.
Well, he actually did plenty more than just the Dodgers, my friends.
Yeah.
If you don't care,
you're never gonna lose to them. They so poo-poo.
Yeah.
You know, he was.
Y'all could tweet that.
He was really funny.
I laughed. Sitting right there. Were you there?
I wasn't there for that, but he was often funny. He might have been the last really funny college football player that we've covered.
It's bleeping embarrassing. Excuse my language. All right, we'll get to the interview. The author of the book on Vin Scully. Stay with us. Coming up next on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
4 games straight, we lost. That's embarrassing. Damn, excuse my language, but...
Okay, guys, thanks.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined now by Tom Hoffarth, longtime media critic for multiple newspapers down in Southern California. And either we're going to talk about his book, Perfect Eloquence, an appreciation of Vin Scully, or we're going to talk about some of the Daily Breeze's best softball teams ever. And I really don't know.
Tom was the manager. We had to be nice to him. Because he determined your playing time.
Batting order?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
PK, you're hitting 8th. You've been popping off.
I think he slotted me 6th, if I remember, which was fun.
Hey, listen, I played catcher and batted 9th just to make everybody happy.
Oh, and we had this thing. You could run. You couldn't steal, but you could run. And Tom batted right behind me. So if he took off his hat and wiped his forearm across his forehead, that was a hit and run. Yeah.
I knew we weren't going to talk about the book. I knew this book had no chance of getting discussed.
No, tell them about the time the comebacker came to the mound and we had a guy picked off at third base. And I threw it to you. I spiked the ball. Remember that?
His eyes got the size of a freaking ocean. And we're at Wilson Park, and I started backing up into the parking lot because he got, like, possessed. He was, like, 3 feet away from me, and he wound up. I was thinking, this is a Nolan Ryan fastball. I don't have a cup on. And I backed away. What is he doing?
I thought we had this guy in a rundown. This guy ran off third base right on the comebacker, and I ran it back to third, and then I threw the ball into, like, Carson Refinery. And PK just looked at me like, what are you doing? I go, you get out here and pitch.
Oh, man, my youth, they were great times.
Good times.
Let's start
50 years ago.
Yeah, it seems like it.
We're putting people to sleep now.
All right, let's start with Vin, and let's go 50 years ago, because I'm not old enough to go back to the Brooklyn Dodgers. That would be my dad's team, even though he lived on the wrong side of the country for that. But in San Diego, when I'm a kid, there's very little sports on TV. You get the network stuff on the weekend and the weeknights, and I ended up going to sleep, listening to the radio, and listening to games when I'm a little kid. I'm in elementary school. I love sports on the radio. And the first time I hear Vin, I have no I don't know where my career is going at this point, right? I'm a little kid. But the first time I hear Vin, I know this guy's really good. And then subsequently, when I get my first radio job in Santa Barbara, my job is to play commercials during Dodger radio games. That was one of 10 things I had to do. And so I'm hearing him every day. Now I know I want it to be my career, and I'm listening to him. I can hear the storytelling, the building blocks, inning on top of inning. I'm like, it's like a painting. It's artistry. I'm a Padre fan. I hate the Dodgers, but I love Vin Scully. But the book, and maybe the book does get into some of the, why he's so good. But what the book really gets into is that he seems like he was as good a person as he was a broadcaster. And I know he was an awesome broadcaster.
Everybody knows he was an awesome broadcaster and storyteller and person who connected all these generations of people. And that was really the point I wanted to make, was for those who had any interaction with Vin Scully on the radio or off the radio as a person, it was such a treat and a blessing, and I wanted to capture all this. And so when I started writing this book, I started putting my own notes together, and then I would reach out to other people and go, hey, did you have this experience? And they go, oh, my gosh, not only that, but he wrote my mom a letter once when she was in the hospital, and he called my dad once when I asked him for this, and it's like, how does this guy have the time to do it? But that was kind of what my takeaway is, because here in Los Angeles, there was no big public celebration for him when he passed away in 2022. So I wanted to see what people remembered about him and what resonated with you. So if you could do a eulogy for him, what would it be? And I got like 67 eulogies, including my own stuff. So I think we have that common feeling, whether you lived in LA or nationally and heard him do broadcasting on the NFL or golf or baseball, but he was just the voice of sports. And
it was just a treat to know that he, as big a guy as he was, as great a broadcaster that he was even a better man. And that's what I want people to know, and just collecting all these things. And I hope that's the takeaway for people.
Tell us the name of the book and where they can get it.
Perfect Eloquence, an appreciation of Vin Scully. And it's purposely called Appreciation. It's not a tribute. It's not a biography. It's really people talking about where they appreciate things that he meant to them. And it's on Amazon. It's everywhere. It's in any bookstore you order, any local bookstore, they can order it for you. So it's really easy to get. It's University of Nebraska Press. And it's been out since May, and it's really doing well. And the response from people has been so fantastic, including his family and people in the Dodger organization. So it's just really humbling to kind of get this out there in circulation.
I read the book while I was on vacation in your state, down in San Diego County. I spent some time.
The state of confusion?
That is your state. I worked with Tom side by side for many years, so I've got stories on that. But
you've escaped to pleasure paradise.
That's for sure. So with that in mind, you talk about the time he had. It was incredible because people would come through the booth, and sure, you'd get big names. You talk about there was a vignette of Ray Charles, and he was a baseball fan, and he wanted to meet Vin Scully. Well, at that era, Vin Scully's probably going to want to meet Ray Charles because Ray Charles was a big-time celebrity unto himself. But the thing that impressed me, there was a lot of just basically average people, behind-the-scenes people that we wouldn't know that you included, and they included a touching story that Vin had for them. And I think that's what made him stand out. Speak to that.
Yeah, because it was interesting. He could be a great broadcaster in any market, but the fact that he was in Hollywood and Los Angeles, moved with the team in 1958, and basically became this transplant, he became really the voice, the soundtrack of Southern California, and he could have got caught up in the fame and celebrity and all that. And he did TV shows. He did some game shows. He got caught up in all that stuff. He one of the greatest performances I think he did was in For Love of the Game with Kevin Costner, when he basically ad-libbed the whole scene where Costner, as a Detroit Tiger pitcher, Billy Chappell, is trying to throw a perfect game at Yankee Stadium. But that was just not that wasn't his goal, is to be part of that Hollywood stuff. So, yeah, he could appreciate the big names who wanted to meet him, and during his last season in 2016, the booth was just filled with people coming in and out, wanting to give him a hug, say goodbye, thank him. But he was so appreciative of everybody, just going from the person who was working the door, James, who was a security guard at the stadium, the press box, to the cook, to the waiters, to everybody else. And it wasn't phony. It was just like he just loved people, and he loved connecting with people. And he knew that his greatest gift was time that he could give to people. And I think that was just sort of a lesson I took away from him. And Jim Hill, one of the local broadcasters here, talked to me about what Vin taught him, and was basically when someone comes up to ask you for an autograph, it takes you just as long to sign the autograph and say hi and thanks, how's your day, than it does to make up some excuse why you can't do it. So these little kind of life lessons that I hear John Wooden, and I hear Vin Scully, and I hear these different things when things happen in your life, and you go, well, what should I do? What would Vin Scully do? And it's like, well, you just be a good person. And these kind of times that we live in now, where it kind of gets divisive and negative feelings go, I don't want to live that way. I want to hold up somebody to show my kids, this is the way a gentleman acts. This is the language they use. This is the preparation they go into their work. This is the pride they have and the joy that they bring to other people. So live that way. I mean, why waste your time doing other stuff when you can have an example like this? And it's just something I think about every day, and I'm so glad I was able to put this all together and share it with people.
Tom Hoffarth joined us. He's got a new book on Vin Scully. One of the things about baseball is people spend so much time together, and the bonds get so deep. And Don Drysdale's a legendary pitcher, and then a very good broadcaster, did some network stuff as well, was having a lot of success, and he passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. And you've got a story that I had never heard about how the Scullys and Don's widow and kids bonded after that. Can you tell that?
Sure. Don Drysdale was married to Ann Myers, who was a huge basketball player at UCLA, Hall of Fame player, broadcaster. They got married, have 3 kids. And when Don passed away, the Dodgers were trying to find her to let her know about what had happened because they were on the road in Montreal. And I remember watching that broadcast, and we sort of knew. We were working at the newspaper that day, and we knew what had happened, but they didn't say anything on the broadcast. They were waiting till they contacted her. And ever since then, they've treated her like part of the family. She would bring her sons out to the games, and Tommy Lasorda would treat him like an uncle. And she was, even last weekend, they did this great ceremony to put Walter O'Malley in the Dodgers Ring of Honor. And Ann Myers Drysdale was wearing Don's, 53 uniform, and she was up there with part of the unveiling, along with Erin Scully, who's Vin's daughter. And they just made them part of the family, even if they're not here, they're still here in spirit. And I think that's kind of the way the Dodgers' new ownership has treated the history of the team. They've really embraced it. And people like Vin Scully, you still hear his voice when you go to the stadium. He's like Walt Disney at Disneyland, welcoming you to the park and telling you, it's like you just and for this ceremony last Saturday for Walter O'Malley, it was narrated by Vin Scully, who had done this storytelling about the life of Walter O'Malley years ago, and it just felt like he was just there. So, yeah, Ann Myers Drysdale is a lovely woman, and it's so nice to talk to her about her memories of the team and growing up. Listening to Vin and being a Dodger fan, and then just being part of the family now along with her kids. So there's all these family ties that happen, and thankfully she was available to do an essay for the book, and a couple others as well who had those kind of really special feelings.
Speaking of family, he had that, Tom, and it is Forget About Me, I Love You.
I'm glad you picked that up on that.
That's an acronym for family.
Yes, and that was used at his funeral as the priest who did the funeral for him reminded everybody of that. And so that's really what he was. And in some ways, this book was really launched because I did an obituary appreciation piece for him for the local Catholic news magazine here in Los Angeles. And that kind of reminded me about how his family was so important to him and all the tragedy he had been through with his previous losing a son and a wife, and his father was pretty much gone before he was old enough to know who he was. So he's lived with death and sorrow and how to cope with these things. And being an Irish Catholic, he says, death is just part of what life is all about. So it's not something to fear. It's something to sort of embrace. It sort of gives life meaning. And again, it's just a reminder to everyone else, like when you feel like, you're having a tough time, what do you fall back on your faith or your family? And really that's what is a message that I think never gets old, and it's always worth repeating and reminding people about.
Yeah, and he had strong faith in this in his life. I'm not sure how many people realize that, but in reading the book, that was illustrated multiple times.
Yeah, it ties everything together, and it's probably the reason why he was such a great broadcaster and a great storyteller. And one of the things that I got to experience with them is at the ballpark on a Sunday morning, they would hold a Catholic Mass down in the locker room area, and he would get up and do the Bible readings. He would read the Old Testament, New Testament. So to hear him do this, the other sports writer I would be with would nudge me, go, I think this is how God wanted to hear it. It's just the voice of Vin. And really what the Bible is storytelling. So it's just Vin in his natural habitat. Just it was just such a blessing to hear that and to know that was genuine with him, because you can be a part of a religion but not really be connected to it. But Vin was really all in and had used it as his heritage as well as his family faith, and it was just so comforting to know that someone like him was not afraid to express that, but also he was a pretty private man too. So when people wrote his obituary, a lot of them didn't have that sort of touchstone as to what he was all about. What made him great in so many ways was, I think, that was at the core of his existence.
Well, Tom, we appreciate your time. Good luck with the book, and I'm glad you wrote it. Vin Scully's the kind of guy who deserves a book like this. And there's so many things that you know about someone when they're on the air, but you can still only know 1 or 2% of what they're doing when they're on the air because so much of the life is off the air.
Yeah, and it's such a thing to see in Los Angeles, all these tributes that are still to him, whether it's murals or people have tattoos or they write songs or, his presence is still felt. And I hope this sort of adds to all that and gives people who might not have known him personally, but a feeling like they really do after reading this.
It's a long story, but once upon a time I had to go to a high school football game and interview the PA announcer because the guy doing the public address was Larry King because his stepson had gotten remarried, and his stepson was the high school quarterback at Timpview High at the time.
Oh, my God.
Did you guys ever get Vin Scully out to do the PA for one of the Daily Breeze softball games? That would have been awesome. That would have been spectacular. Go to your local park, and there's Vin's voice through the trees over the backstop.
Now batting right? In the 11th hole. The far left fielder, and he's got a great future someday.
We did have, Jim Fox, the Kings analyst?
Yes.
They were in the league. The Kings had a team
and
in the league.
And I feel so bad about that. Once when I was pitching, Fox had a comebacker to me, and I knew he just had knee surgery. So I let him run all the way to third base before I threw him out.
Oh, man.
I just held the ball and oh, come on, Foxy, keep going.
Vin would not have approved. Vin would not have approved.
Terrible. That was terrible. And now I see on Twitter he's had his 17th knee surgery done again. It's oh fuck. And I'm sure I contributed to it, but yeah, it was a fun softball league, and I wish we could do that again, but we're just too old. We have memories of ourselves being great, and then we have the reality that we're not anymore.
No. Tom Hoffarth is the author. The book is Perfect Eloquence, an appreciation of Vin Scully, available at Amazon or wherever else you get books, your local bookstore and all that. Tom, thanks for a few minutes. We appreciate it.
Thank you for helping me get the word out. I appreciate that.
There you go. That's Tom Hoffarth. What's it? Pure Elegance? That's the name of the book. I think that's the name of it, right? And you can get that wherever you want to. If you are a Vin Scully fan, for some reason, Jay Scott's not a Vin Scully fan. But you don't like apple pie and Mom either?
I don't know. I didn't grow up listening to the Dodgers on the radio.
I did.
Oh, good for you.
But he also, remember the Joe Montana, the catch to Dwight Clark? That was Vin Scully. He was on the broadcast.
That's great.
He broadcast Masters. He was a national treasure. He broadcast the Dodgers for 67
Are you the one
years.
who tells me that you don't care about broadcasters and you don't care who's calling the game and that
That's on TV.
Okay.
Radio's different.
Yeah.
Radio is interactive. Radio's not background noise. TV can be. No, when I'm watching the game, I honestly don't hear a lot of times what they're saying because I'm watching the game.
What other broadcasters would you consider a national treasure? David James? Craig Bolerjack?
Yes, absolutely. All of them would be national treasures.
Treasures?
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to be sitting in his seat right now.
Yes, you is. And have they announced the broadcast team? Are you doing the Jazz stuff this year?
I assume so.
You assume so? Where do they play their games?
The Jazz?
Yeah.
At Delta Center.
For some reason, that's got under DJ's skin. I don't know why. He wants to know who made that decision and why they made it. But it's clear they made a conscious decision to drop the. They can call it whatever they want. I don't care. I'm more about.
You clearly do.
I don't care. They changed sponsorship, and like people got excited that it was brought back to the Delta Center. Like, call it whatever you want. Yeah. Whoever pays the bill, I don't care. It doesn't. That type. I have no sentimentality in that stuff.
I don't either, because you have to get used to I had to get used to a bunch of different names over 20 years.
Right. It just doesn't matter what the building is
I totally
called.
agree. That's why I was surprised when I came in here one day and you're like, you call it Delta Center. Where's the? Like,
Because
I don't know.
when
I
you
don't
come
care.
in here
I don't
each
care.
day, you try to blow up me, and I try to blow up you. I agree.
I never.
Oh,
I don't
get
know.
out of town.
I
You're
don't
always
know
giving me crap.
What you're talking
That's part
about.
of the stuff that during COVID that I missed when I broadcast from home. And DJ was here. I wasn't here to be to have the shucking and jiving that we do. That's part of the fun of this gig.
I agree.
Is with the guys that we get to see each day. All right, stay with us. Get you caught up on what you missed next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Coach's poll came out last week. Utah was ranked 13th. The AP poll came out, and Hans, Utes ranked number 12. I had a conversation with somebody who's knee-deep in the TV side with ESPN, and right now ESPN is planning on Utah being in the college football playoff, and their early season coverage is going to indicate that. Plan on a lot of national love coming University of Utah's way, whether Kyle Whittingham wants it or not, because he loves that underdog role. They're looked at as the team that's going to come out of the Big 12 and represent that conference and be part of that initial 12-team college football playoff. Now, whether that happens, who knows? But when you look at the depth and the talent that they have, if they stay healthy, there's no reason why this team isn't one of those final 12 at the end of the season.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back in on this Tuesday. The Snigs is on assignment at Black Desert. And tomorrow, I'll be down there.
Yeah, on assignment. He's getting a massage right now, if that's what you mean by on assignment.
Come on, I massage his ego each and every day.
Maybe going to hit the spa and then go out and do 18 in the afternoon. I mean, it's rough.
That's what he's doing?
That's what I assume.
No, I think he was texting me. He drove in after the show yesterday and how awesome it was down there. And we're 2 months away. What's today? Today the 13th? So 2 months from today, I think, is the Sunday of the final.
Correct. Yeah, October 13th. Yeah. The championship Sunday.
That's going to be awesome, man.
Yeah, I heard DJ this morning talking about private hot tubs and stuff. I know exactly what he's doing.
Hot tubs in which you have privacy.
Yeah, very important to somebody like David James. I think it's awesome that the PGA Tour is coming. I have not seen that course yet. Obviously, you've told me great things.
It's spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a game changer there for sure. And then that's going to be some week. Of course, you got the regular college football. The Utes are in Tempe on that Friday. The Cougs playing the Cats that week. Arizona, which is ranked in the top 25. They're around 21st there. So they're expected to be good. The prolific offense, great quarterback, good receivers. See what Brennan can do his first year there in Tucson. And then we'll have the golf tournament. And then that's the first week of the hockey season, too.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Talk about a jam-packed week. That's when you know you're big time sports community, when you got that much stuff going on in a singular week.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Sports around here is getting even better. There's no doubt about it.
Right. And then in the next decade, if they get MLB and
how hard is that course?
Well, everything is determined upon the tee. If you're playing back, I play closer.
Yeah, but
I think it's a course that you need to get familiar with.
Because I've only played two courses that are actually PGA Tour stop courses.
And
they're both brutally hard.
Which ones?
Well, Kapalua, you and I have both played that. That is a hard course. So I'm assuming that this one down is.
What's the other one?
I played PGA West in Palm Springs last year.
So those are
crazy hard course.
Two that I've played.
Oh yeah, good, crazy hard courses, and I'm assuming this one is too. I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but to be a PGA course, I mean, it can't be.
Well, it'll look different. They'll do some things
legs,
that they're not doing right now, and certainly the course that they play is not the same course that I play, even though it's the same course.
Yeah.
I think this is one of these courses that you need to get familiar on where to hit the ball,
because usually those types of courses, greens, are not just flat and small. You know, they got a lot of undulation and all. You got to put it. You see sometimes on the TV, the hole will be to the left and the pro is hitting to the right because there's a huge break. So I think that once you get more familiar with it, I think the pros will be fine. And I've played it multiple times and gotten better each time because of my familiarity with it. So I think you go out there, like I think it's the 9th hole is a par 5, and I hit a decent tee shot. Well, there's they got lava on the course that you got to negotiate some of the holes, but then there's a lot of like cutouts where there's lava little canyons, and I didn't realize how close it was on the second shot, and I hit a great second shot, but it went in, and you can't go in there, so you need to make sure either you lay up or you got to go to the left, and there's not a lot of room to the left, so you need to negotiate. It's a course that, at least from my tee boxes, you need to negotiate and know where to hit. And some greens, you've played courses, know, oh my gosh, don't be above the hole on that one.
Yeah, right.
Because it's just, the only way you know that is by playing it.
Or sending your caddy out to scout it in the first
Oh, they
place.
do have caddies down there.
Do they?
Yeah.
I've only played with a caddy once in my life, and it was awesome.
Me too, only once.
It was so great.
Where was it?
Glen Wild.
That is...
You and I, buddy.
Yeah,
the only
it's the exact same course.
Hey, that caddy was money. Just put it here. What are you talking about, dude? It looks like it goes that way. Just put it right here.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I played that one time.
Yeah, I've only played it once.
I got a call. I was at the gym, and it was like 1 o'clock. And the guy, my buddy, calls, hey, we had a guy drop out, and they said I could get another one. If you can get here in time, I had to race home, change, and do way over the speed limit up I-80.
To get there?
Yes.
Definitely, like changing was good because they're not going to let you. That's the type of place
no,
that
you have to. Yeah,
is not
dress
letting
codes.
you out. Yeah, right.
Most private places have dress codes. Shirts got to be tucked in, and so they actually were backed up a little bit, and they were eating lunch when I got there, so it was fine, and I got some food. But I can remember on a par 3, I had yanked it, and I was above the hole to the left, and the pin was selection on the right, and the caddy tells me you need to go around to the left. I'm like, what? Yeah, go around the left. And, of course, these guys know what they're talking about. And so I did. I never would have gone that way if it were myself on my own. But I went the exact way he showed it, and it trickled down. I parred the hole.
Yeah, right.
Because I did.
It's amazing how easy the game is when somebody who knows tells you what to do.
Yeah, especially these types. But I'm fired up.
Well, yeah, because those guys are caddying for tips.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make those putts, you get the tips.
Right, and I told my buddy to tip them well.
That's what I would have done, too. I forgot. You're the type of guy who volunteers people to drive so you don't have to pay for gas.
I pony up with all the money I'm making now.
I forgot about that.
Come on, no.
Oh, why don't you guys go ahead and drive, and then you don't pick up a tank?
No, I fill it to full no matter what. Get out of town. That's not who I am.
Oh, I
not
know.
no more, man.
I know.
I'm a high roller.
I know the guy you're making fill those tanks.
Yak, you need anything, man? If you do, just let me know.
Okay, I'll hit you up.
Oh, yeah, a concert in Boise. Why don't you go ahead and drive? Yeah, good idea.
Oh, when you got like $100,000 car.
Now the excuses come.
You're thinking of one person in particular.
I am, yes.
I paid my way. And if I didn't, it's my wife's fault because she handles all the money.
Yeah, there it goes, too.
I don't handle any money. I got 20s that she's put on my dresser drawer probably from 6 months ago that I haven't spent because I don't spend any money. And if I spend anything, it's credit card. So PGA tournament coming in 6
a 20 on the
2
dresser.
months.
It's that kind of relationship, huh?
Yeah. She leaves 20s on the dresser.
Hatch has had a couple of those in his life.
What?
That was a bad joke.
Oh, you're getting profane? Not on my show.
You got profane.
I did not.
I know it's not your show, but we don't need to cross the line here.
That's what I think. That's what you think of when he's leaving money on the dresser.
No, not at all. I don't think that at all. And I got no problem going off.
Does she
the path.
leave you 25 if she's in a good mood?
There's no such thing as a 25.
No. Whenever she goes to the bank.
Who are you? When did you become Patrick Kinahan?
And it's been about 6 or 8 weeks. She leaves me cash because she handles all the finances. I do nothing. And my friends, the few friends that I have, are nodding their head. Like a guy, one of my buddies, how much did it cost to play golf there? I don't know. She makes the times. I don't know. Well, when you go up and check, I don't check in. She checks in. So I don't know.
It's a good gig. I hear you.
I got no idea. But then again, I don't hound her on spending. Spend whatever you want. You're the one who decides the money.
Rob Schneider made a movie about it.
He did?
It's an old movie.
What was it called?
Deuce Bigalow.
Ah, yeah. I remember that movie. I knew which one you were talking about.
Terrible movie. Just terrible.
What'd you expect going in?
Got to be maybe one of the worst movies ever made.
What'd you expect? Big story of the day, the Utes naming Isaac Wilson, freshman, as the backup quarterback. The Cougs unwilling to name a quarterback. Now Yock's got his ear to the ground, and he thinks Gary Bohannon has a lead. And this is a big week. And if he follows it up with another good week, he very well could be.
You don't think they've picked already? You don't think they know already?
I think in their minds they know. They're not willing to say it.
Well, yeah, they're not going to say it until the game starts.
Well, but I don't think that matters. If you're playing Southern Illinois, who cares?
They're still going to do it.
And fine.
But yeah, I think
everybody does it.
I think they've probably already made up their mind.
I don't know that they've made up their mind. I think they're leaning. I don't know. What do you think? Is that accurate?
Leaning's the best way to say it
Yeah.
right now. This is the week that I think it'll be quote unquote set in stone.
And are they having a scrimmage on Saturday again?
They're having another scrimmage, and I think after that they will.
Yeah, well then you got 2 scrimmages in. The Utes, they made basically their decision after a scrimmage.
Correct. Yeah. I do think that they're leaning one way, and it's towards Bohannon right now. But
So do
I think this week will be the week that it gets confirmed, or they flip back.
Right. They need more confirmation.
Yeah.
And why not? You've got the time. Why rush into something if you're not 100% sold on it? Yeah. So I have zero problem with their decision that they're making. If they want to see some more practices and some more team sessions and another scrimmage, great.
Yeah, who's going to help that run game?
I hope whoever it is, I hope for the quarterback runs for like 800 yards and they win 9 games. Right. I hope their next quarterback, whoever it is, puts Michael Vick to shame in terms of running.
I'm always baffled. I've heard that a million times since last year. They said it in post games and stuff like, well, the quarterback really helps the run game. It's like, gosh, who cares? Why is that a thing?
If it helps, it helps. Why wouldn't it be a thing?
No, it can't run the ball unless we have a dual threat quarterback. Why not?
You can run the ball better. Whatever works, whatever helps you matriculate downfield. Isn't that what they say?
Matriculate down the field, yes.
Isn't the only reason, and wish DJ was here to answer this, but I think the only reason Marshall Faulk was any good at San Diego State was because they had a running quarterback, right?
Who was it?
I have no idea. That's my point.
Yeah, you pick a Hall of Fame running back. Good example.
What do you think?
Arguably,
fine.
Top 5, top 10 all
Danian
time.
Tomlinson's the only reason TCU was
Imagine how good a career Harvey Unga would have had if Max Hall were a dual threat guy. Imagine the yards would be astounding.
What are you, Gordon here? The numbers, not the yards.
The numbers. The numbers would be astounding.
I don't know. All right, stay with us. We'll wrap up the show next and get you ready for those 2 Looney Tunes from 10 to noon right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, folks, man. Isaac, number 2. How ideal is this development for Utah? Jake Scott is beside himself with joy that the Utes have their quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years. Good times, man.
Does that describe what my opinion has been this morning?
I think, do the BYU coaches know who the quarterback's going to be?
You told me they're waiting till the scrimmage on Saturday.
No, but do you think they know?
Yeah, sure.
Right. But did you say that? Same thing. Did you tell me that? No, but I think you think that
just in the same manner that you think.
Is that it?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Well, why am I even here? You could just translate my opinions and just do it yourself.
I get to bust you on air, man. I mean, you didn't. Why are you here? You know full well why you were here.
We'll see. Do you think if, heaven forbid, Cam Rising suffered an injury, do you actually think Isaac would be the first one off the bench? Or do you think he would?
Well, what's the point of being number 2 if that's not the case?
Well, I don't think it means all that much, honestly.
Really?
That was part of the depth chart that they release in camp. Yeah, I don't know.
But they're doing it so extraordinarily early.
Yeah, again, out of the ordinary, so that should tell you that there's some sort of agenda.
That means to me that they're extremely pleased with the kid.
Okay.
That's what it means to me.
Well, that's you projecting onto them, sure.
Well,
just like you accused me of projecting. It's the
I'm
same
not
thing.
accusing you of anything.
Huh?
You know, this is not a courtroom, it's a radio studio.
I don't know if it's true that he's the second best quarterback on the roster right now. Then that's probably a good sign as a true freshman.
I think it is.
There you go.
And I think he's got a leg up on next year, which means they could potentially have a quarterback set up for the next 3 to 4 years, and that would make all Ute fans excited.
Yeah, Utah State probably thought the same thing with McKay Hillstead, I bet.
Did they?
That's what I've heard out of Utah State, that they thought he was going to be a guy.
Then why didn't he stay and compete?
Because maybe he's not a guy this upcoming year. I don't know.
Isaac Wilson is staying and competing. And he's won the backup job.
My point is that a lot can happen as people are already projecting that he's going to be.
Has there ever been this big of an age difference between the backup and the starter?
Probably never.
Although I understand that Isaac was a year older in high school is what some folks had told me.
So, probably. I mean, how old is Cam? 27, 26?
He's 25.
25.
He'll be 26 right around the NFL draft time.
Whoever Chris Winke's backup was, there was probably a pretty.
Was he like 28, 29?
Yeah, he was like 29.
Yeah. Yeah. Would he play pro ball?
Baseball.
Yeah. Which, of course, then proves my point, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the toughest sport to master is baseball. Hey, if you can't do this, go try this, because this is much easier. I'm looking at you, Chris Winke. I'm looking at you, Daniel R. Ainge. This sport over here is so freaking tough. Go try this one where you can be excellent at.
John Elway, right?
John Elway was in the Yankee system. And I think he used that as leverage to get out of being drafted by the Baltimore Colts.
Yes, it was the Colts, and he didn't want to go.
Right, and then obviously over to Denver, and he made a lot of great times with the Denver Broncos. John Elway was my all-time quarterback until Brady won his last Super Bowl. And then I gave it to Brady. But if Brady goes down, Elway's going in as the greatest quarterback of all time.
But I would never give that label to a Bronco.
Why not?
I don't want to give any credit to the Broncos.
What's wrong?
I was forced to watch John Elway constantly growing up. It's like, ugh, vomit.
You were forced, or you had the privilege of watching John Elway?
It was either the Broncos or the Niners. It's like...
so I had to either watch... So my choices were, get this, Yock, John Elway, Joe Montana, or Steve Young.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. I feel so bad for
It's like choosing between your least favorite foods every Sunday.
Really?
3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
3 of the greatest of all time?
That doesn't mean I have to like them.
How do you not like Hall of Fame
How do you not enjoy this?
I don't like the Niners. I don't like the Broncos. What do you want from me?
Liking those. It's about liking and appreciating greatness.
It is?
And yes.
So
yes.
You're now instructing me on how to watch sports?
If you want to be right, yes.
Oh, okay.
And be happy. You sounded miserable. I'm trying to help a human being who was miserable.
Because you
that
sound
going
happy?
forward, the best counselors aren't necessarily the best people. I was going to listen, Yock, between 10 a.m. and noon, but I think I'm going to have to wait till tomorrow.
Not now.
No,
Not gonna happen?
no. It's just
You've had your fill?
I'm too infuriated. Stay with us. Ben and Jake are coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.